Hey, let's start the show.
It's May 17th, 2012. Welcome to This Is Only a Test, the official podcast of Tested.com. I'm Will Smith. Welcome to the show. Joining me today, as always, Norman Chan. How are you doing, Norm?
I'm doing okay.
You're wearing a 3D t-shirt. I'm just saying, it's 3D.
Checkbox.
I can't help but talk about it.
How much email do you have in your inbox?
Not that much, it turns out.
Oh, okay.
I inbox zeroed the other day. I Command A, deleted everything. It's all gone. So if you send me an email and you're waiting for a response, you're probably boned. We have two very special guests joining us today. Men you may know. You've known them for a long time.
You want to elaborate on special? Do you need like stars around that? Quotations? ITAL?
All I'm saying is that they are special guests. They're people that may be very familiar to the tested audience and maybe to the larger audience of the world in general at this point. Wesley Fenlon, Matt Braga, how you guys doing?
Hey, Will. I'm great.
That was Wes, if you don't know his voice. And Matt Braga's over here as well. He flew in all the way from Toronto, Canada this morning just to be on the show.
Just to be on the show.
Thanks for coming, Matt.
Hey, thank you for having me, Will.
It's good to see you again.
It's good to see you, too.
So
like late night?
No, well, I mean, that's what we do. We intro. I wanted to build it up because there was some people may have thought, due to maybe a poorly worded tweet on my part, that you weren't yourselves when I said we had some very special guests today. I think they thought we had some very, very special guests today.
Non-ironic special.
Yeah, exactly.
It sounds like you're implying that we are, I don't know, somehow...
Don't say short bus.
No, don't. Okay.
Don't say short bus.
I'm okay with being air quotes special.
Yeah, actually.
Yeah, I think you guys are special guests. I'm glad you came down. This is probably both your first trip to Pacifica too.
Yeah, it is. I've lived here for almost a year, and the first time I've been to Pacifica.
The thing I realized
Not
is
really missing much.
no, well, we have the best Taco Bell in the country.
We got the tour from Norm.
It's on the beach.
Yep.
Yeah. Did he show you?
He pointed it to us from afar.
Yeah.
He also told us the tale of the 9 Pacificas that actually make a Pacifica.
I think it's 5, but yeah.
5. So okay, there's 9 exits or something.
Yeah, it's a kind of a narco-syndicalist commune of towns. It's one of the only places I've ever lived that you can go into the grocery store on Sunday morning at 8 o'clock and see like 3 dudes wearing utility kilts. So, we got that going for us.
What is that?
Oh, you're going to Maker Faire this weekend, right?
Oh.
You'll learn about the utility kilt. It's a kilt it's like a cargo pants. It's the cargo pants of kilts. So it's a man dress with pockets.
You know the Scott E vest?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like that, but kilts.
And with no crotch.
Not necessarily for Disney Pixar's Brave, just cuz.
Right.
Yeah, sometimes you want to wear
Circulation.
a kilt. Yeah, it's not a bad
Refreshing.
Yeah. You want to let everything breathe.
West,
But you got to have pockets.
Yes.
Well, if you're a maker, if you're building stuff, then you need to have a place to put your Leatherman and your tools and stuff like that. If you don't have big pockets, then the kilt is of very low value to you. So yeah, you're here for Maker Faire this weekend, right?
Yeah, I'm super excited. This is my first Maker Faire of all Maker Fairs.
And does this mean you're like the San Francisco correspondent for the Toronto newspapers that you're working for?
Pretty much, actually. I was surprised that they actually went for coverage. I kind of went to them and described it as sort of like a mad science fair of technology and magic and wonder.
Good thing you didn't tell. They didn't know there was also Seattle Maker Faire and
Yeah.
and other ones around the country.
Detroit.
possibly close to
Detroit
that.
is really close to Canada. It turns out.
I know. There's the Detroit Maker Faire. There's the New York Maker Faire. We have mini Maker Fairs in Canada. But the way I sold this one is I said, guys, it is the original Maker Faire. And I don't know if that actually swung them, but it just...
But you're here.
I'm
Get the
here,
plane
so...
ticket.
Hey, congratulations. So yeah, there's a bunch of news this week. There's a ton of stuff to talk about. So let's just roll right into it. Gary has family in town this week, so he's spending a lot of quality time with family, I think, if you're wondering. And I guess let's just jump right into it. Anybody have anything else in the idle chit chat or witty banter section of the show to talk about?
Nope.
Okay. Wow, that is a big giant bird.
Banter. I hardly knew her.
Oh God, that was terrible. Boy, are your arms tired. I do want to say one thing. I realized the other day that when we're podcasting from Pacifica, there's somebody else that podcasts in the Bay Area from a small P town, and there's been some confusion. Petaluma, which is the opposite way of Pacifica from San Francisco. So if Leo and his guys are up north, we're the southern, the SoCal version of that, I guess.
Is that where Twit's based?
Twit's in Petaluma, up where Jeff and Ryan and all those guys live too.
That's where you guys used to be too, right?
No, we were never in Petaluma. That was Sausalito.
Sausalito, right.
Which was a little bit north. Petaluma is a lot north.
Huh.
It's a long way.
Everything blurs together in your country.
That's true. So let's just jump right into it. First things first, Microsoft's unveiled Signature this week. This isn't the big story, but I want to talk about it because it is interesting to me. If you bought a PC from HP or Dell or Lenovo or really anyone, Sony notorious for this. Microsoft unveiled the Signature plan, which is a thing where you go to the Microsoft store and you either buy a computer that's labeled Signature, or you take your own computer in and they'll decrapify it for you.
One of 10 locations.
I think there's 16 now, right?
Ooh.
Or is it 16 opening later this year? So the reason they're doing this, I assume, is that when you buy a PC, it comes with a lot of shit installed on it, right? And multiple kinds of antivirus, anti-spyware, offers, value stuff.
Why does that happen?
It used to kind of make sense, right? Because it used to be in the days when computer components were expensive, the manufacturers would sell space on the PCs that they were selling to Norton or McAfee or whoever, any one of several dozen in some cases vendors. I don't know that stuff's necessary.
But guess what? They can still make money from it.
Yeah.
Well, right. They can still make money from it, but the PCs are at this point, the components are really cheap. It's not like we're in a race to reach $1,000 or something ridiculous now.
It was also the case where those partnerships, not just for antivirus, but for utilities that weren't that great on the Windows default.
But
like
what utility gaps are you missing on Windows these days?
When Windows 95, not right now.
Oh,
but
yeah.
With 95, 98, and ME, they were not great.
Yeah, it was nice.
Mail clients, browsers, and for some extent like Steam and stuff. And there were partnerships put useful.
Did you air quote the useful there?
No, the really useful third-party software like Steam on Dell systems.
Or what was the defragmentation program? They go to Diskkeeper. That used to be something you'd get for free on kind of high-end machines.
And then, of course, because Windows PCs all look the same on the desktop, aside from wallpaper changes, everyone, Dell, HP, Acer, they all had their own skins, and so there would be. They customized the actual framing. Of the
wow, I'd completely forgotten about that. But yeah.
And all the quick loaders and stuff to get to your apps, even though you already had shortcuts on the desktop.
And
right.
Let's not forget, boot partitions for backup.
Well, and then the other big... Well, I don't think they're changing the boot partitions with the Signature stuff. But the other thing that they would do is you'd get like a copy of Encarta or World Book on a CD-ROM. Yeah, Nero. Nero still sends me email. They're one of the biggest spammers that I get. Yeah, they still exist. It's still a thing.
Hello, Christopher. I'm Nero. I can think of.
Wow, that was a good pull, Norm. So Signature, basically, if you take your PC in for $99, they will make it decrapified. The thing that's funny to me about this is that there's a tool called PC Decrapifier that does exactly this.
For free?
I think it used to be free. I kind of think that they charge something for it. Maybe it's Donateware. I don't know. It's very inexpensive. It was like $10 if you had to pay something.
But Microsoft's Signature Series PCs, to get the Signature certification, you bring your PC in the store or buy it from them directly online or in their stores, and it's an additional $99.
Yeah.
Not only
if you buy the PC, it's about the same price.
Right.
So you can buy like the crapified HP or the non-crapified PC, and they're more or less the same thing.
But not only do they supposedly get rid of the crap that you get with other OEMs, they also hopefully, these real air quotes now, install their essential apps.
Oh, so like Windows Live Mail and Windows Live Photo Gallery
and MSN Messenger,
and not just their apps either. But I was reading that it's also like if you want Chrome or iTunes, they will help install those as well.
Oh, that's nice.
Yeah, so like it's not entirely a cash grab.
I think I'm going to take
it's a cash grab, but it's more of them wanting control of the Windows experience, because they really don't have control once they license that out and sell licenses to OEMs. They have like a whole microsite for the Signature PC thing, and they have their experts are, of course, like Paul Thoreau of Windows Supersite, saying surveys say people would love the idea of a Windows Signature experience. I don't know that 2 years down the line, 18 months down the line, people are going to, Windows consumers, when there are a lot of them, when Windows 8 comes out, are going to associate Windows Signature with a more pure Windows experience or a better Windows
Well,
experience.
right now they're not even promoting this program at all. Like it's something that you like. The only reason I know about it is there was a story in the Wall Street Journal about it the other day that Walt Mossberg wrote. They didn't send out press releases. They didn't. The PR people haven't called us to tell us about this. It's only available in the store from Microsoft Online. I think that the creation of a signature thing solves a problem that is a real problem for users. It annoys me that the problem exists still. It is a problem we've been talking about. I literally had this conversation with Microsoft before XP came out, before Vista came out, and before Windows 7 came out. And it's almost like they get to a point in the cycle and they say, oh, what annoys people about Windows and what do people really like about OS 10? And then they approach that problem, as they reach the end of the cycle and are looking for things to do or whatever.
What kind of bugs me about this is that I feel like this is a second stab at something they tried to do a few years ago, or maybe like even a year or two ago, where they basically, there were certain OEMs, right, that were basically, advertising that they were selling Windows PCs that had clean installs of Windows. Right?
Well, that was Dell and HP did
Right.
that, and I think Lenovo as well, and I think Dell was like a $50 upcharge to get the no crapware installed PC.
I think the problem, like, I don't know, maybe I'm underestimating sort of consumers here, but I wonder how much of an incentive that is for consumers, right? Like, if you advertise a PC as being sort of free of pre-installed stuff, or if you say after the fact, like, go and get your PC decrapified, I mean, I wonder if that's something that will resonate.
I think the thing that will resonate isn't that message. I think the message that will resonate is here's the pure Windows experience. If you want the pure Windows experience, get the Signature Edition PC. I think it's the same. It's kind of the same thing that's ended up happening with Android and the Nexus line.
I would love to hear from the OEMs about this, because I have not even have a feeling. I just can't imagine they're particularly happy about this internally.
I don't care. I mean,
Well,
here's the
but-
thing: the OEMs. If we want to talk about like the failures of the PC market, look at the Ultrabook initiative, right? Apple, basically the best thing that's happened to Intel in the last 5 or 10 years is Apple using x86. When they started doing that, they suddenly had a partner that could make really nice looking hardware and pair it with a good user experience in a way that the PC OEMs have pretty not universally consistently failed to do, because there's always high points, but for the most part Apple has provided a roadmap. Intel has said, hey, we're going to give you a bunch of money to help you do this, and then none of them have been able to execute. The Ultrabooks have not sucked, but they're not good. There's no perfect Ultrabook.
The guidelines are way too lax.
Well, right. I mean, that's okay. So the guidelines are lax, but at some point, when you have an open ecosystem like the PC ecosystem is, you have to say, okay, you guys are going to go take this stuff and then make a good product out of it, and they're not doing that, or they're not doing it consistently. So I mean, I don't know. I don't know what the solution is at this point. I mean, I think at this point, I think that's why you see Apple getting, early access to new Intel chips and chipsets and stuff like that. And I think that's probably going to continue until somebody steps out of the shadows of the PC ecosystem and starts making stuff that's universally good.
Is all this going to be kind of like, is this aimed at Windows 7 PCs, or is this also sort of aimed at Windows 8? Because I feel like, Windows
It's got to
7.
be a predecessor. It's for Windows 7 now, but it's got to be a precursor to a similar program in Windows 8, or they're trial.
I mean, they've been doing Signature for 7 for a while. In store.
Yeah.
This is the new thing is bring your existing PC, turn it
Right,
into a
right.
Signature for $100.
It's just a shame, right? Because you think that with Windows 8, I mean, they would just try to curb that sort of thing completely, because it's a new OS, it's a completely new look and feel. For them to even think about continuing a Signature series for Windows 8 just baffles me, right? I mean, who knows if that's the case, but
Windows 8 strikes me as the first version of Windows in a long time that might sort of have everything you want out of the box if you're, a mom or dad home user. Like, I can't really imagine somebody using Windows 7 or XP and not downloading Firefox or just like tons of third-party applications that are free or
a mail
whatever.
client,
Exactly.
and stuff like that.
But Windows 8 seems like it's trying to take that kind of modern apps approach of everything is just right there on your big tile, start menu, and you just click on it, and that's what you use your computer for.
Yeah, I'm going to be... Well, I think the browser is a special case because I think, looking at traffic for IE versus everything else, I think a lot of people never, ever change browsers. But it's going to be interesting to see how the Windows 8, how that more integrated approach with Windows 8 is, because they're going to have security stuff built in and the whole 9 yards. So you're right. You're going to need much less third-party software.
Which
when
means
Windows
what's
8
the
comes out.
crapware going to be on Windows 8 that Dell and Lenovo and everybody put on there?
I bet it's gonna. I mean, the thing that we're seeing now, the thing that you see now is stuff like Netflix, and I mean, it may not be. It may be stuff that you actually kind of want, right? It's more offers than crapware in a lot of cases, which is kind of like I'm much less offended by offers than I am by something that's going to get in at a low level on my system and cause performance problems and compatibility problems down the road.
Yeah, I would take a Netflix button on my homepage over a toolbar installation any day.
Yeah, I mean, nobody wants toolbars, and you don't need 4 different antivirus pieces of antivirus software on the machine that are all asking for $50 in order to unlock the full version. So, I mean, I don't know. We'll see. I'm going to be interested to see what happens with this, and even if it continues into Windows 8.
And something I just thought of now, when Nor mentioned the sort of boot partition thing earlier, what's to stop someone from then going ahead and realizing, oh shit, my computer's hosed, and then using HP's built-in, boot drive utility to restore a copy of Windows? All the crapware comes back.
My guess is that they probably make a new restore. Windows 8 has a built-in restore disk creation functionality,
Right.
so you basically hit a button and it makes a restore disk for whatever position you are in the.
If you're the type of person
in
that
the-
pays $99 to get to turn your PC into a signature PC, you're not going to use that.
Yeah, that's probably true.
Restore.
You're probably going to go back to take it to the Geek Squad and have them fix it.
Womp womp.
Let's go on down the list here to talk about Verizon. Verizon's killing unlimited data plans. They're going to. I guess he didn't say he was going to kill unlimited data plans, but they said they're going to transition away from unlimited data plans for cellular
They already
service.
don't have unlimited data plans. If you are
Well, the grandfathered in ones.
right, if you're a new Verizon subscriber right now, you have different tiered options, but people who were Verizon customers, one incentive to stay a Verizon customer, especially moving to LTE, so people who bought the Galaxy Nexus, was to keep your $30 a month data plan, but have it unlimited.
Were they
which
able
for
to keep? Were they able to
LTE
transition from 3G to 4G and keep
absolutely.
unlimited? Because I don't think AT&T lets you do that.
I'm not sure about AT&T. I hope they do, but I know people who bought the Galaxy Nexus were able to transition from 3G to 4G or LTE and stay on unlimited. That no longer will be the case. And I think they're actually going to take away those plans from people who are currently on unlimited. The grandfather plans will go away, and they're moving to a not I guess account per or a price per user, but price per account, which includes shared accounts.
Well, the shared accounts are new.
Yes.
For data. I mean, you've been able to do a shared voice plan. Like Gina, for example, Gina and I have a shared pool of minutes on AT&T, so that when she uses some more a month than I do, then I just happen to use less, and it all kind of works out. The shared data plan is new because right now we have 2 separate pools of 2 gigs each. I would love to have a more like the family style data plan. I think that's a much better alternative.
Yeah, so you pay the $50 a month or $60 a month, and you get 5 gigs, 10 gigs, how many gigs you need,
Right.
and you share that between your family.
Well, and the thing that opens the door for then is one data plan with multiple devices. Because that's my complaint. Like it's weird to me right now that I have to pay $30 for an iPad data plan and $20 for whatever. But I mean, I think a lot of this Verizon thing is a result of iPad sales. A lot of the 4G iPad sales going to Verizon, and this is a way for them to pull phone customers in next time there's a hardware spin.
Yeah, but they also created a special data plan for just the iPad.
right.
But
But
$20 a month for one I think one gig.
2 gigs, 1 gig.
1 gig.
Yeah. I don't know. I think that I'm not so upset about the going away of the grandfather data plans because they've made them made them not unlimited data plans through things that I hope they eventually get sued for. But I mean, justice moves much slower than I do. So I'm really interested to see what happens with the shared data plans. That is really compelling to me.
How many? Oh,
Oh, no, go for it.
how many gigs do you guys tend to use a month on your?
Depends on how much time I
Probably
spend in the
lots.
car. 1.5
Yeah,
to
that's
2
fair.
gigs usually.
Okay.
I almost always get the text message that says
Way
you're
more.
getting close.
Yeah.
Or I mean, do you go
I'm
over?
on 3-4 gigs. I'm unlimited, but I'm on
Right.
3-4 gigs just for the iPhone.
But don't you get slowed down?
Nope.
Oh, because you're in a neighborhood where there's a lot of users. Ah, that's such bullshit.
Wait,
I'm
what?
unlimited on Sprint, so I actually
You actually are
I've-
unlimited, though.
I've checked once, I think, how much data I used, and that was about a year and a half ago, and I think it was 2 gigs
The
in a
difference
heavy month. But
it doesn't matter how much you use. The difference in mindset for unlimited and if I had 10 gigs a month, it is it actually changes the way you use your device.
No, definitely. I mean, like I went from having I jumped from like a 500 megabyte cap to a 1 gig, and now I'm at 5 gigs. But I mean, I feel like there's a certain point where when you have so much, it's almost like you can treat it as I don't know. Like I treat my 5 gig as if it's unlimited.
You think so.
But do you download podcasts and stuff? Do you watch video and stuff like that on your phone on
like
the mobile?
cardio? I usually use like 2-3 gigs a month, but like I've never gone over just because like I don't know. I'm on Wi-Fi enough that I find that I don't go over it, but I can still like when I put it this way, when I go out and about, I don't think to myself I shouldn't download this 100 megabyte podcast because I'm going to go over my cap.
See, I sit in the driveway and download the 100 megabyte podcast on Wi-Fi before I leave the house.
Right.
That's terrible.
Yeah, it sucks. It's bad, especially when the limitation isn't performance of the network. It's the fact that I'm going to get yelled at by AT&T.
Also, if you're on like a Android phone or Android tablet, your YouTube videos, when you stream YouTube, it's lower bit rate than when you stream it on an iPad.
Yeah.
The iPad defaults to the high bit rate. Same with the iPhone. So
Can you adjust that yet? Is there a way to adjust that on the iPad?
no, automatically they just want the highest quality experience.
Is that worse with the Retina display? Or
No,
like,
the high def stuff still looks great, but then
okay, so it's not like higher
You use
def
up
then.
like in 20 minutes of watching YouTube, that will be a gig.
Right. What was that thing you were talking about before with more users in your neighborhood? Or
So AT&T, at least I think AT&T determines what the usage, when you get warned for using too much and when you get throttled for going over the limit based on the other users in the cells that you primarily connect to.
Okay.
So if Norm is in an area with a whole bunch of people that use a lot of phone, then he'll have more data than I do, which is the bullshittiest of the bullshit things.
It's like top 5%, right, or something.
It's top 5% on your
They'll send you
cell.
a message. You're in the top 5% of users, and so we're going to throttle you, and that is a moving bar based on where you live.
Okay.
Yeah, so I use the same 1.5 to 2.5 gigs every month, and in January I got a warning, and in March I got a warning, in February and April I did not. Yeah, which is that makes perfect sense, right?
Okay.
Yeah, of course.
Like it just sounds so nutty because I mean, what if you're the sort of person that travels around a lot? Like, I mean, you live in Pacifica, but you used to have to go all the way down into downtown San Francisco all the time. So
yeah,
totally different cells. That okay.
Yeah, and sometimes I rode the train, and sometimes I drove, so I saw different cells there too.
Yeah,
it's the whole thing's weird and dopey.
So in terms, also about data caps, Comcast today
right.
for the States increased its data cap from 250
Hold on,
gigs
AT&T is doing the shared data plans too. Sorry, that's on their roadmap for this year as well, but no timing.
But they didn't say whether they were going to kill their grandfathered plans.
AT&T has already made the moves to kill their grandfathered plans. The throttling when you cross the 5% threshold is the move to kill their grandfathered plans.
Area dependent. I'm okay in an urban area.
No, I know.
Comcast has raised its bandwidth limits from 250 gigs to 300 gigs. The first time increases come in like 3 or 4 years.
Well, so they rolled this out in 2008, and the cap has been at 250 gigs since 2008. The thing that they had a big long blog post. I don't know if you read it, but it was interesting because they explicitly said our goal with this was never to curtail legitimate use of the internet or streaming services, even if they're competing with Comcast,
such as HBO Go
or
YouTube,
Hulu or Netflix or anything. They said that their goal was only to curtail. The implication is that their goal was to curtail heavy BitTorrent users. And to maintain because cable nodes are shared among everybody in the neighborhood, one heavy BitTorrent user in your neighborhood can fuck up the entire network. So it's interesting because I went back and looked at my router to see what my traffic has been for the last 3 months, 2.5 months.
And the fact that you have to go to your router, you can't go to the Comcast site to do it, is
I could go to the Comcast site, but it's easier to go to the router.
Okay.
I went to the Comcast site, looked at my usage, and I've hit 250 gigs for the last 2 months. Easy. No, like one was 325 and one was 275. Since we started working at home and doing a lot of video uploading and streaming the podcast every week and all that stuff, and with Gina homesick a lot too, she's watching a lot more Netflix and Hulu and HBO Go and all that stuff.
I still find the bitrate on HBO Go is much worse than direct stream from the cable box.
Well, I don't have the direct stream from the cable box, so I don't know.
I don't have either of those.
Well, I mean, you're from Canada. You should be used to this by now.
But also the incremental pricing now, if you go over 300 gigs, is about $10 for 50 gigs,
which is fair.
That's very reasonable.
Like
$10 for 50
50
gigs.
cents a gigabyte.
Oh, if I had that for cellular, that would be amazing.
Right. I mean, I always felt like it was the problem I had with the Comcast thing before was that if you went over if they warned you 3 times or something, they'd kill your service, right? Which is, I think, not right. The fact that they're now saying, hey, here's what the limit is. They've increased the limit to beyond what I would hit on a normal use if I wasn't working at home. I think is totally reasonable. I have no beef with that. I think it's a good move on their part. I wish that they would give cheaper services to people who were using less. I think that would be fair. I think if you're only using 50 gigabytes a month or 75 gigabytes a month, you should only pay $20 a month instead of $60 a month. I think that's hopefully that's the eventual outcome of this metered stuff. I don't think that's going to happen because it's not really in Comcast's best interest.
Well, I mean, the way it generally seems to work with most people is that if you want to use less, you also have to have slower speeds,
Right.
which is, I guess.
I think the speed matters much less now. I think once you're above 10 or 20 megabits a second, then the speed is for the applications that are available in the United States today.
Right.
I think the speed matters a lot less. I think the caps are the thing that are going to kill us.
Right.
I think when we transitioned to 2K and 4K higher resolution streaming, then that's going to require much faster bandwidth.
That's just going to be a mess.
Yeah, I mean, but that's a fairly
2K or 4K. What about 8K? Japan just successfully broadcast 8K video over the air.
did
over
people's
the-
fillings get
Over
hot or
the
anything?
air. That's awesome.
Wow.
Wow,
I'm not
how-
sure what the bitrate was.
How many
but,
people could see it?
3.
One video,
Are there
one
3
TV
of those
station.
TVs?
One of those TVs, 8K. Oh, at CES we saw the 8K TV at Sharp's booth.
We saw it again at NAB. We saw
And-
another one at NAB.
And I think the guy behind he was telling us how there were like it's an array of HDMI cables
Yeah.
behind just to pump the signal to that TV.
Well, because it's 16 1080p sets, right?
Yeah. So
Yeah.
many HDMI cables.
Is that right? Is it 16 or is it? Yeah, it's 16.
It's 8K, 8,000 wide.
Horizontal.
Not-
So it's a
Do,
4 by 4.
do,
Yeah,
do,
it's 16.
do.
I had to work it out in my head. I think this is a good move on Comcast's part. I think this is in part a response to the people complaining that HBO Go and Hulu and YouTube, well, YouTube to a lesser extent, but HBO Go and Hulu counted against your bandwidth limits on Comcast, but the Xfinity app on Xbox does not. And while I still think that it's weird that HBO Go counts and Hulu does not, as long as they're charging a reasonable rate for going over.
HBO Go is now on Time Warner. Time Warner subscribers can get HBO Go now
Oh, that's good.
on their Xbox and iPads and stuff.
HBO Go is a lovely thing. I mean, I have to say, I have used HBO Go more than anything other than Netflix since that's become available to us.
My question is, does HBO Go's value decrease over time as people watch all the backlog content? Like, it's great now because, I haven't seen, it's easy access to Sopranos and The Wire
Deadwood
and Deadwood
yeah.
and Band of Brothers and all the stuff a bunch of stuff I haven't seen before. But once I get caught up on that and it's just the new shows that I really want to watch, does it become less valuable?
Oh, I think so. Yeah. I mean, the nice thing is that the list of movies that are on HBO Go has basically zero overlap with any of the other available services.
Well, it's because they pay for exclusives.
No, I know. I mean, so there's a value there as well if you like to watch a lot of movies. I think as you move through the backlog of series, then it becomes much less valuable to me. I mean, I've been watching Game of Thrones and Curb.
I mean, it's the same thing with Netflix.
and Deadwood, but Netflix changes a lot more frequently.
Yeah, they take stuff off.
Right. Well, so does HBO Go. I mean, HBO Go stuff expires at the end of every month, basically. So
On the other hand, I think HBO is now probably producing more original shows than they ever have in the past, and
Yeah.
for the most part, they're pretty good.
They're all good.
Yeah, so obviously you're gonna lose
I
some.
don't know about True Blood.
some backlog content, but the rate at which they're putting stuff out is increasing, so
Yeah.
that's good for it.
I mean, they definitely get that original content. It makes a difference for them. Norm hates Anna Paquin. It turns out. Who knew?
Yeah.
Shrug.
But that Lena Dunham.
I like the quote. In that Comcast post. It says, "We've never had any intention to limit the lawful use of the internet or restrict our customers' ability to view online video. Please don't investigate us. We're just a bunch of friendly furniture makers up here at Cabletown." Did you see the mind controlled robot arm?
Yes, I did. This was I guess,
Quadriplegic.
Yeah, a woman who was has a bionic arm now. Well, she can control with a brain implant.
She can control a robot arm with her
brain.
mind.
Yeah.
Yeah, that is exactly the right response. Matt Braga's squeaky voice. No, it was so she was able to like pick up a drink, put it up to her mouth, drink the drink out of a straw, crazy, and all by training her mind to make the right patterns to control the robot.
See, that's necessary. Like by robotic enhancements, cyborg enhancements. Do you want to talk about the unnecessary cyborg enhancements?
I wanted to talk about our experiment with brain control devices first. Do you remember this?
No.
You don't remember when we had the Jedi mind trick training tool?
You're talking about just EEG, EKG.
Yeah, I think it's an EEG, the thing that you hooked on your head and you had to get your alpha waves and delta waves to the right place so that it would lift up.
Mm-hmm. I remember using that for Unreal Tournament with one of those headsets.
Oh, that never worked.
Yeah, it did. You use it. You concentrate to fire. You still use the mouse and keyboard to look around.
Yeah, but
you concentrate to fire.
Oh, that
What?
Magic missiles from your brain.
Yeah, but you
if
always
you-
shot 3 seconds after you wanted to shoot.
Whoa,
That
that's
ruins the
that's a
point
Will
of
Smith
Instagram.
problem.
So yeah, let's talk about the unnecessary augmentations.
Okay.
I didn't have this on the list because, but I did. There was a Reddit post, an AMA on Reddit last week about a guy who had magnets implanted in his fingertips so that he could then, which has a unique effect. I think this doesn't fit into the unnecessary. This is in the cool and moderately useful, but not like life changing.
Moderately useful means unnecessary.
I think if you're in the right profession, this could be a life-saving implantation.
Okay.
So the way it works is you cut open the tips of your fingers, jam some very, very weak magnets that are coated in silicone or I can't remember what there's a new material that they use that's safer. And then they stitch up the wound and let it heal. So that
It is extremely painful.
Don't jump ahead, Norm.
Wow. Okay.
So so what happens is when the magnets are implanted, when you move your fingers near a magnetic field, anything that's a magnetic field, whether it's a 60 hertz wire, 120 hertz wire, speaker wire, a phone coil, whatever, the magnets in your fingertips vibrate. That triggers the mechanoreceptors in your hands, and you get a unique sensation that is tuned to the different kinds of wires, the different kinds of current, and the different EM fields that are running through the thing that you're nearby. And so the guy who did the AMA on Reddit is an electrical engineer, and he uses it to know when things are live and when they're not. And it gives you basically a sixth sense that lets you detect magnetic fields up close. I think it's really cool. Now, the downside is that it's not a medical procedure. So you have to go to like tattoo artists and piercers to get it done. There's only a handful of them that do it. And of course, no anesthetic. So you have to be kind of hard, for lack of a better term, to do this. Because they basically cut open the fleshy part of your finger, jam a magnet into the fat layer underneath, and then stitch you up all without any kind of even local anesthetic. So what you do is you soak your hand. Quinn Norton had it done years ago. I don't know. I talked to her about it the other day. She used to write a column for us when we were at Max PC. And she said that she soaked her hand in a bucket of ice water until it hurt. And then took it out and they made the cuts.
Splice
and jam it in there, basically.
magnets into your fingertips.
Yeah. I think it's like I said, not for everyone. There's some other downsides. If you ever have an MRI, you have to have them removed
Yes.
for fairly obvious reasons, because you don't want to fly across the room by your hand.
I don't think your hand would fly across.
No,
the room. I think the
they just
magnets
rip
would
from your
tear
hand,
from
and
your
it would be
fingertips.
bad.
That is terrifying.
It definitely sounds like the kind of thing that would be really awesome for a few months. And at some point, surely you would encounter a situation in which you wish you could turn that off.
So I asked Quinn about
There's
it.
no off switch.
I asked Quinn about it, and she said that it just became like after a very short. The thing you do is you put it on a less used finger on your non-dominant hand. So she had it on the ring finger of the hand that she doesn't write with.
That is the most useless finger.
It is the most useless finger. Like they've determined that it's the most useless
it
finger
is. Like,
because you use your pinky to grab stuff.
Yeah, you could live comfortably without that finger.
That's why you put your ring there
Let's
too.
test it.
Gets
Okay.
caught in the. I have a butcher's knife. We can do this right now, Chan. Anybody know how to make a tourniquet? So she said she had to have it removed after the MRI when she had an MRI a few years ago, and she said she was bummed because it was something that you became so accustomed to that you didn't put that finger near something that was going to trigger it if you didn't want to know if it was on or whatever. And it was really neat because you could tell like which wires on the outside of a house were telephone wires, which ones were electrical wires. You could like Ethernet has a unique signature, USB has a unique signature. So you can tell like it was. She said it was really useful, and she misses it. So, but not enough to have it redone.
Did the Reddit guy do it on all of his fingers, or was it just...
He did 2.
Okay.
And there are some other problems, like if you like rock climbing or something, you have to put it not on the fleshy part of your finger. You have to put it off on the side, and then the anesthetic thing is a big downside.
Why can't you just bring anesthetic?
I mean, I think you know there's laws about that kind of stuff. Isn't Stapleton's wife an anesthesiologist?
Exactly.
There we go, freelance anesthesia, Lady Stapleton. There's another story that came out this week. I saw this one. It's funny. I love watching stories go from like the science blogs that I read every day to Reddit and Slashdot and ours and stuff like that. And then like this morning it was on Today's Show. So there's a guy who had 4 magnets implanted in his forearm. Oh, you can't use the magnets that are implanted in your fingers to pick stuff up either because they're very weak. You can pick up things like staples. But if you put a neodymium magnet or something that has another strong magnetic field to it that will hold onto your finger, it kills the skin between the magnets and the if you leave it on too long. So you like it's not like you gain the magneto power to pick up metal with your hands. This guy, however, embedded the magnets on the outside of his skin, and he uses it to hold an iPod Nano on his arm.
I saw that. 4 little studs, right?
4 little studs.
Yeah.
Now that's dumb. That one's dumb. 100% dumb.
He wanted a strapless band for his iPod Nano to go running.
Yeah.
Why not implant magnets on his arm?
That makes perfect sense.
That's just one level above the guy who put a USB port on his fingertip. But that guy actually had his finger already cut off, so he decided to have a prosthetic with a USB.
See, now that's okay. The other dumb one that I remember was the guy who had the RFID chip implanted in his forearm, so he wouldn't have to carry a security badge to get into his office.
A pet.
Basically, yeah, he got chipped. Although like he had the kind that you hold up your wallet to the door unlocker thingy, which seems crazy to me. Because what if they change the door unlocker thing and you have to get a new one?
That is slightly more
the worst.
lazy than I don't want to take my wallet out of my back pocket to tap the door, so I'm going to jump with my butt to the door.
Is this a value judgment about someone you're talking about?
I'm just saying I know people who do that.
Why are you looking at me, Chan?
I'm not looking at you, but I know people
pointedly not looking at me
who went with the key pass on their back pocket would just do the jump. To touch the.
What if they were
the
tall
door
enough
lock?
that they didn't have to jump?
Well, then it would be easier.
What's the laziest thing you've ever done, Norm?
I don't know.
That's a very
Wes, what's the
broad-
laziest thing you've ever done?
Not have a job during summer in college.
You can do better than that.
Stay in bed all summer.
Have you ever taken like cereal and milk to bed with you so you wouldn't have to get up to have breakfast in the morning?
No.
Water and cereal?
That's gross.
I can prolong laziness for great periods, but I don't think I've ever hit like a, slouch, your room is covered in garbage because you're too busy to throw things away period of laziness. Like
Braga? What's the most Canadian lazy thing you've done?
I once wanted to make a bean burrito, but was too lazy to make the bean burrito, so just ate the beans and the cheese
In a bowl?
Well, it's
is
kind of just on their own.
out of your
low
hands.
carb bean
You know,
burrito.
spoonful of beans, a block full of cheese.
Chipotle sells that as a meal. It's the low carb version. Chan, I'm coming back to you. What's the laziest thing you've ever done?
Sleep 5 hours.
What?
I don't know.
That's
Terrible.
yeah.
No fun. I wish Gary was here. He's good at lazy. There's a solar eclipse this weekend in North America.
What part of North America?
The west coast of North America.
Ah, fuck off.
Guess where you're going to be?
Wait, this weekend?
Yeah.
Oh, hey, I'm gonna be here. This
Yeah,
is
there
great.
you go. Hey, Matt, you're in California now.
I know.
What time did you get up this morning?
In my time, I got up at 4 a.m., which was 1 a.m. this time.
So you've been up for 12 hours now.
Yeah.
13
Yeah.
almost.
Yeah.
It's pretty good.
Yeah.
So solar eclipse is Sunday afternoon, 5:30 PST. It's only the northern part of the West Coast, I think. So maybe it's the southern part of the West Coast. I can't remember, but I'll put a post up on the site tomorrow that tells you how to see it.
So Canada.
I think it cuts Canada off. I think it just kind of it's a weird. This is a weird one because but it's a full. If you're in the right area, and of course the neat thing about solar eclipses when they don't completely block the sun is that the shadows on the ground get really weird. Were you at Future when we had the last big solar eclipse storm?
No.
So it was at like 1 o'clock on a Tuesday afternoon or something, and you went outside and like everything looks pretty normal because you don't look straight at the sun because you'll go blind. But the shadows are all curved. So there's like they're curve taken out of the shadows on everything, and looking at the shadow of a tree becomes really weird, and kind of a deciduous tree, not a coniferous.
Thank you for the distinction.
Well, with the needles, they don't kind of make the right kind of shadows. You need something that's solid. Wes, you wrote a really good story that went up this morning.
I did write a really good story that went up this morning.
Modest, aren't you?
Yeah. No, it took a lot of work, but I was pretty happy with it.
So, emulation is nothing new. People have been emulating arcade games and classic consoles for a pretty long time at this point, 10, 15 years in some cases. Some of the emulators are different than others, and there's a lot of kind of complexity to emulating, even something that's at this point 25 years old. So you talked about a SNES emulator.
Yeah, it's called BSNES, and like you were saying, emulators have been around forever. A lot of the Super Nintendo emulators started up around 1997, and you could run those on pretty much any PC that you had in 1997.
Like a Pentium 133 or something.
25 megahertz processor was kind of the bare minimum back then.
That's because the SNES had like a 3 megahertz processor.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, it came out in 1991, and even then, it was not exactly like a super fast processor.
It wasn't a high-powered machine.
Nintendo has never done hardware on the cutting edge. They always
N64 one time.
Yes and no. They always make money off their hardware. They
That's
always
true.
use cheap enough components that they can make a profit, unlike Sony and Microsoft, who will take a $200 or $300 hit on a console just to sell software. Nintendo makes money on both, which is pretty smart. And they were able to have the NES and the Game Boy live for years despite being super cheap.
Yeah.
So anyway, this guy started up a project in 2004 with the goal of emulating the SNES to hardware perfection as much as he possibly could. And that requires...
Hold on, let's explain what that means. Because when you look at, for example, like MAME, which is the arcade emulator, or the other SNES emulators, they kind of use end arounds to simulate what the way the chips actually worked without actually emulating the chips perfectly, right?
Yeah, so stuff gets super complicated, but basically there will be... it's all in the way you code the emulator and how you take code from the original hardware and games and realize that on a different platform. But in a lot of cases, say you'll have a game that it doesn't work right in your emulator. So instead of emulating the way the actual hardware would perform that game,
right,
they'll just speed up the fake CPU that they have written for the Super Nintendo.
And there is literally a virtual CPU that gets run on on top of the x86. That's what emulation is.
So
Exactly.
it's like it's almost like a virtual machine where you run a different OS or something inside an application.
Right. So say they boot up this SNES game and it only runs at 15 frames per second, or there's like weird graphics glitches or whatever based on the way it was programmed. They just speed up the CPU, or they write a game specific hack to basically fix those errors, and then they'll put something in the emulator code that will make it detect that game, so that when you boot up Mega Man X2, the emulator goes, oh, I know this is Mega Man X2, I need to run this specific code to make it work properly. And the downside of that is, one, you're not actually replicating what that hardware could do and what it wasn't capable of doing, and that throws in a lot of bugs when you're talking about timing for the way things are supposed to happen in the game, and in some cases that will even break a game based on some weird way it was coded back in 1992.
Well, and with the SNES games especially, it gets even more complex because they had, in some cases, like DSPs and stuff that ran inside the cartridge ROM, right?
Yeah, so that was basically what my article focused on, was how the guy who created BSNES sort of led the charge on trying to get this hardware perfect emulation, which is especially difficult with the Super Nintendo because, like we said, it had this really slow processor at the time. I mean, it was decent at the time, but it wasn't fast enough. Like, for example, the Sega Genesis had a 7 megahertz processor,
yeah,
so twice as fast, basically, as the Super Nintendo.
Man, that was good times.
Yeah, blast processing. And obviously, there are other factors to what a system can do other than just CPU cycles.
Yeah.
But it's still, the Super Nintendo needed some help, and they planned ahead to create these chips, basically little processors they embedded in a cartridge to that the CPU would offhand calculations to.
Okay.
So
is this what the Mode 7 stuff was, or is that something different?
Mode 7 is sort of different. That's just a term for a type of...
It was like background rendering.
Exactly. They
right?
had different ways they would do sprite art and different layers. There was modes 0 through 7, I think, or there might have been more than that. I can't remember. So the coprocessors were totally different. This is stuff like the Super FX chip, which is why a couple years into the Super Nintendo's life, you got Star Fox, and it could do polygonal graphics, which nobody had been able to do before. And you had like Super Mario RPG, for example, that had like the isometric 3D graphics. That was stuff that the Super Nintendo couldn't do with its regular CPU. So it needed these little chips embedded in cartridges.
Game specific, and the chips
Yeah.
weren't all the same, even the Super FX ones.
So there were a few that were kind of more general use, like Super FX was used in a few different games, but there were a few of these digital signal processors that were literally only used in one game.
Yeah.
Or
That's crazy.
Or in one or two games.
And this is why some of those SNES cartridges, even when they were new, were dramatically more expensive than other games.
I think
right?
that was part of the reason. I talked to him about this a little bit, and he didn't know too much about pricing. So that certainly played a factor in it. But the big thing that changed how much a game cost was basically the ROM size.
Oh, okay.
And that stuff was just really expensive back then. So when you had a bigger game that needed, twice the ROM size of Mario, like Chrono Trigger or something, that's why that cost like $90 when it was new.
And how big were those games then? I mean, they weren't very, very big, were they?
No.
There was 64 megs at the outside, or was it 8 megs
Oh.
at the outside? I can't remember.
Like 2 or 4,
Yeah.
I think, at the biggest. I think Star Ocean is probably one of the bigger games. It was never released over here, but it has like 3 seconds of voiceover at the beginning.
Wait, what?
Yeah.
That's crazy.
It actually directly lifts audio from Star Trek, which is really funny. Like, it has an opening that is Star Trek.
Dun,
And
dun,
so
dun,
there's a reason it never came out in the United States.
I can't imagine why.
Yeah, they would have gotten
so-
super sued.
You talk about the DSPs inside the actual game cartridges. To emulate that, they needed to actually see how those DSPs worked.
Yeah.
And to see how DSPs work, they needed the actual game cartridges.
Yeah, so for some of them, they were able to, and a lot of these games were pretty common, right? Like Star Fox is not a rare game.
No, you can
some
go to
of
the
them,
flea market and get
some of
that.
them are rare. So with some of the ones like the Super FX that ran programmable code, they were able to reverse engineer that without going to drastic measures. But for a lot of them, these were locked down cartridges. They ran their own code that was pre-programmed into the cartridge, into the ROM. So they had to get the cartridge, open it up, melt off the plastic covering.
Wait, this is drastic measures.
Yeah, this is
Okay.
drastic measures. I mean, you need a professional electrical engineer to do this. Basically, you melt off the plastic covering of the chip with acid, and then you scan the chip with an electron microscope.
Okay.
And then that's how they're able to read the ROM data. And then from there, they have to figure out a way to like interface with it, upload code, for example, from a CPU to trick that CPU, that DSP, into dumping its code so that then they could rip it and save it onto their computer.
So you're saying that they open up the chip with acid,
Yeah.
and then they aim a scanning electron microscope at it, so they know what it looks like, and they can actually see the bits on the ROM chip?
Yep.
That's bananas.
But you're
And-
talking about, it's not as complex as the modern day.
Well, no,
modern
obviously.
day chip,
Yeah,
so
I mean,
it's
yeah,
still a lot of work, but you can actually parse that.
yeah, I mean,
the
these
diagrams.
This was micrometer processes, right? These were things that they did with like real light or real light lithography, I assume. back
Yeah, I'm
then.
not sure exactly how the scanning process worked. I wanted to talk to the guy who did it, but unfortunately he wasn't interested in talking about it. But basically, they found this small emulation community around BSNES found a guy who had previously helped out with the MAME emulation scene in scanning some of these like cartridges for MAME.
Classic ROMs.
Yeah, scanning circuit boards. So they got in touch with him, and he was willing to scan them for $250 a chip, which was basically what it cost him to perform the operation.
Probably to get time on the electron microscope, I
Yeah,
would
so
assume.
he basically did it for free. And so they raised $2,500 to get all the cartridges. Most of them, somebody had one. They donated them. A few of them they had to buy, and then paid him to scan all the DSPs.
But it's a destructive process, right? Like the cartridges aren't going to work after you acid etch the covers off. And
I assume that chip, I don't know if it would be functional or not after that. Okay. Probably not, but I'm not positive.
So what are some sort of like real world examples of games that aren't really emulated properly that would really sort of benefit from this perfect emulation?
So a lot of them are really minor. I used Mega Man earlier because that is an example of a super minor thing in just timing of the way the fake SNES CPUs run that game versus the way real hardware would run it. You might get like some sprite flickering or something just doesn't quite display right.
Or the shadow
Mega
doesn't
Man
show
X
right.
for PC was the worst thing ever.
Yeah, so things shadow doesn't work right. Flickering, maybe it doesn't run at quite the right speed. Things that basically no one notices unless they are extremely into this stuff, which is why ZSNES, the most popular emulator, has like 26 million downloads versus some number in the thousands for BSNES.
Okay. But the interesting thing to me about this whole story wasn't really the technical stuff is cool and kind of amazing because these guys have spent literally thousands and thousands of hours working on this.
Yep.
But the interesting thing to me is the archival aspect, which is I think where you're getting ready to go.
Yeah, absolutely. BSNES, I don't know if he started with the goal of hardware perfect emulation, and as of March or April of this year, now has support basically bug free. You're always going to find bugs for every official Super Nintendo game ever. The last game was a Japanese shogi game. And it used one of these DSPs to just like do AI.
Okay.
And so that was the last game. So it can run anything now, anything that's not like a ROM hack. And it runs it without having to say, okay, this is this ROM. This is what I need to do for cheats.
this. It's no cheats, which is pretty amazing.
Yeah. So the kind of benefit of this, I think, to the larger world of just technology, video games in general, is this is the best example I've ever seen for somebody just completely perfectly preserving like a wide swath of technology culture
or video game history.
Of history that will live on a different platform, basically identical to how it was originally. At least it's the best example I've ever seen. It's still never going to be perfect. There are still minor differences in the emulator versus the Super Nintendo. But if a Super Nintendo like purge happened and every console was erased off the face of the earth,
or the Book of SNES, walking the earth,
exactly. One last
that Carnegie
Super Nintendo.
Denzel Washington is walking around with the very last copy of Chrono Trigger.
That's right.
No more Super Mario World, guys. But it's possible that could happen. Things like that have happened in the past. If you look at like the yellow dye, the yellow pigment problem in photos that happened. I can't remember which film it was. I think it was Kodak print film in the late 60s and early 70s. The yellow pigment, is the yellow pigment or the blue pigment? One of the pigments is basically faded because the chemical broke down. So if there's a chemical, like the ROM carts aren't going to last forever.
Yeah, absolutely not.
Like the substrates will start breaking down eventually, and they'll lose coherence, and it's more than just the batteries conking out. They're like the data on them will be gone.
Yeah, batteries, that's something you can easily fix, right? But when the data's gone, it's gone.
Right.
The whole time I was reading this, I was thinking of, emulation. It's like Instagram, but for video games,
but not really. Instagram is precious.
I am calling your shit on that.
No, same thing. They want to replicate something that was a artifact of that process.
But no, because this is different. This is different. Instagram is adding.
I'm saying Instagram is the wrong way to do it.
Instagram,
yeah. That's what I'm saying. The analogy is Instagram is the artificial,
nice recovery,
fake
Chan.
way of doing it, and there is no real way of actually because digital images don't deteriorate in the same way that real photos do.
Yeah, I mean, there's no reason to have lens
Yes.
bad
that's what I'm saying.
lens.
This is why I hate
artifacts.
filters.
Yeah, no, okay. I was gonna say you're out in the wild there for a minute, but you pulled it back nicely.
So part of the reason I tried to make the focus of the second half of the article about software preservation and how some of this stuff is kind of in a bad place right now, or is going to be in a bad place very soon, is when I was talking to the guy who made BSNES, and he said, yeah, I'm not sure if anybody's going to care about this stuff. I'm worried about the emulation scene. But more than that, he says, Super Nintendo hardware will be around for a while, right? It's going to take us a long time to get to that last Chrono Trigger cartridge situation.
We're still driving Model A's, as Adam pointed out
exactly.
the other day.
So that stuff's going to last for a long time. But he says that more modern cartridges, like Nintendo DS cartridges, for example, the type of ROM that we use in those is, I don't know if it's necessarily cheaper, but it has a much shorter lifespan than the type of ROM they were using in 1991.
Well, and as the data density goes up on any medium, the reliability of it generally goes down.
Right. And so we have so many things now, stored on flash memory, and these games are going to last maybe a third as long.
Well, it's interesting because one of the things that they said when recordable CDs were introduced is, oh, look, you'll be able to buy the gold discs from Kodak because they'll last for 100 years, right? If you want to archive your photos and stuff, the way to do it is with this optical medium. It's much more reliable than tape. If you move it next to a magnet, you're not going to lose all your stuff. But then it turns out that the dye layer on recordable CDs is good for 10 or 12 years for, kind of as an average. So if you have 10-year-old CDs burnt, which almost everybody probably does at this point, odds are there's going to be data loss on those discs.
Yeah, and this stuff just really fascinated me because Jordan Mechner just in the last month had posted this interesting article that I mentioned in my story. And I grew up playing Prince of Persia, and I thought it was really interesting that he found the discs,
the floppies,
the source code disc that he had misplaced 20 years ago of Prince of Persia. And sure, you can play the game still. You don't need that source code, but it's interesting. It's an interesting relic of what it was like to code games in 1989.
Well, and the other thing is, if you look at games, especially Japanese games, I didn't realize this until I was talking to Jeff and Ryan one day, they didn't save source code or assets. There are tons and tons and tons of Japanese games from the 90s and 80s that just don't exist anymore outside of cartridges.
Yeah, I actually talked to this guy named Richard Honeywood last year, who was responsible for Squaresoft, now Square Enix's localization department during the PS1 days.
Yeah.
And basically the first game they gave him to work on, he was over in Japan in their office. They were basically just starting to realize after Final Fantasy VII came out, oh, we can make a lot of money in the United States. So they have him in-house to translate like Chocobo's Dungeon, I think was the first game they gave him or something. But they didn't preserve the source code, so they just hand him basically like the completed game and are like, yeah, translate this. And
play the game.
Yeah, and he tries to work on it for a while, and then he realizes he can't. Like, he just can't do it. He needs the source code. He needs access to the development team, and they had already split off to go do other stuff.
Everywhere else. Yeah.
So he's like, this isn't going to work. And so from then on, they kind of learned that they had to keep that stuff.
Well, and the interesting side effect of that's why a lot of those translations are so janky, is because they had to fit the characters into the same character space for the US and the Japanese versions, and you end up having really crazy, weird stuff happen.
A lot of limitations in there.
Yeah, it's a great story. I think it's definitely worth reading. It's a little bit long for us, but I think you did a really nice job.
No, it's perfect length.
It's a little bit long compared to our normal story, but yes, I think it's a great length.
Read all of it.
Yes, it's there's a lot to digest there, especially if you're into games, emulation, or other things. And there's going to be more stuff coming on that kind of front in the not too distant future, as Wes has time. Let's see, we talked about the solar eclipse. Norm, you made fake drugs this week.
I didn't make fake drugs.
You made fake drugs. That picture was your counter.
Oh, that's true. So Wired had this kind of sidebar in their magazine, which a lot of information was pulled from this 2009 LA Times report about what Hollywood uses to make fake drugs substitutes
like
in film.
Blue
Yeah,
meth.
when they don't use real drugs?
Can we make blue
I
meth?
thought they
Do we have the
actually
recipe?
there's a rumor, urban legend, I guess, that Al Pacino actually did use cocaine for Scarface, which
That was an
Well,
expensive pile of cocaine,
not
if that
gonna
was
make
real.
any judgment calls on.
It was
but
the 80s, man. All sorts of stuff happened.
I mean, there are a lot of TV shows and movies
yeah.
about the drug trade.
Drug use features highly in everything from South Park to
Well, South Park is animated, so I don't think that.
Oh,
actually
yeah,
fake
okay.
drugs,
Yeah.
drugs for that.
Interesting.
But ranging from cannabis to crack cocaine and meth.
Yes.
Breaking Bad is very popular. So what do they actually use to make these drugs? And it turns out
Ryan bought a bag of meth.
fake meth,
Didn't he? Oh, he almost did.
rocks, right?
The
Like-
blue stuff from Breaking Bad.
I-
Yeah, a fake meth, just to
Fake-
be clear.
fake meth.
Yeah, he did not buy a bag of real meth.
Yeah, like-
but he, I think he almost accidentally bought a bag of prop meth because he put too much. Like he said, somebody will pay more than this. I'll put $1,000 and maybe I'll
on eBay. Or
on
something.
eBay or something. Yeah. Anyway.
That is okay. First of all, don't ever. Okay, probably eBay won't do this, but someone's gonna probably bid. I just want to be part of that experience.
Yeah.
Bad idea.
And having my name on the record of I bid on this crazy item is how people end up with random stuff.
When I was like 10 years old, I learned the lesson about this because my dad was an auctioneer, and we would always go to the auctions, and if there's something that my mom wanted or something, then they'd let my sister or I hold up the thing. So one day while Dad was auctioneering,
you were the child. I'm not no adjectives before that. Holding up,
the parents'
some
parents'
lamp.
bid thing.
Okay.
Mom went to the bathroom and left us sitting there and didn't take the thing with her. So my sister and I bought a ton of shit, and my dad was just sitting up there doing the auction, glaring because you can't break the rules of the auction. Like there's specific
I gotta
rules.
stop. My child over there is buying
Right,
everything
I've got-
that we
right.
don't want.
My dad's
that is
bought-
not a fan.
No.
that is a okay.
Yeah,
wow.
it was bad.
So were you buying like
Why?
tractor
Wait.
supplies?
So
and-
not
I bought
only,
ferns.
Wait,
I
wait,
like
wait,
ferns.
Wait. So not only was your dad doing the auctioning,
Yes.
but your mom was there buying stuff from that very auction.
Sometimes, yeah. It's not. There's no rules about that.
Really?
No, it's not like you.
He can't see. I'm ignoring that side of the
Here's-
room, and I see that paddle over there.
The thing you can't do is have somebody in the audience running up prices and not buying anything. That's frowned upon. But if you're actually buying stuff, that's totally cool.
It would have been way cooler if you were the kid who was secretly upping the bids on everything.
Yeah. Some little 4-year-old in a suit.
Your dad gives you like a 2% cut.
Yeah,
Sounds like a bad subplot of a Disney movie.
probably like a Newsies type thing.
Like a Baby's Day Out.
Oh
type
man,
movie.
I wish I was in Baby's Day Out. So continue, Norm. I apologize.
So to make meth, you can break a porcelain mug and then stain it with coffee. If you want to make
a porcelain mug
yeah, just like a coffee cup.
doesn't look like that. Doesn't
Well,
look
on
like-
camera.
Oh really?
On camera, it looks like meth.
This is like when they use glue in
And,
cereal to make the milk. look
The
white.
most interesting thing was for the cocaine because they don't use they use powdered sugar.
Well, and since people take it on camera, you have
You
to
have
have
to find something that they can actually ingest.
yeah, that won't kill them.
So they're baby laxatives.
Really, you store baby
vitamins?
laxatives? Laxatives?
Yep.
That seems like such a bad idea. But
And,
are there no unwholesome side effects from that?
I don't know. I'm not an actor.
Tested.
I would love to know who actually went out of their way to try
Well, prop
what
masters.
was safe.
Prop masters have.
We should
that's
ask
their
Adam
job.
and Jamie about this.
Right, the director says for this episode we'll need X pounds of cocaine. A few grams to actually have the actors snort, and then a few pounds in the background for the drug bust shot. Get me this stuff, and then the prop master has to come back to the set next day with all that stuff ready. They have their suppliers, so when they for something like Pineapple Express, where at the end of the movie they go to you have all the greenhouse stuff, right? They had to buy those plants, which were not real marijuana plants, but those are actually more expensive because they're fake.
Are they just hemp or something though?
They were expensive apparently.
I mean,
See, I'm talking about like how do you find out that how do you learn that baby laxatives is something that is safe to snort? Like who is the person that just goes out
trade.
and
Somebody
just,
has a real bad week.
just
yeah.
snorting?
You go to the grocery store and buy all the shit that's white.
And
Or
snort
they
it
talk
all.
they talk to the druggies who've
really
been ripped
hurts.
off.
Oh, who cut the drugs with other
who've
things?
been ripped off, right?
Oh, right.
So,
But
it's
I
like,
think that's a dangerous thing because sometimes like
I don't know what they do.
rat poison.
Yeah, bleach.
You don't want to snort bleach, no.
I thought it was vitamin B13.
There's vitamin B13, which apparently is that powder is used in actual making of
Yeah,
some drugs to dilute it or
weird.
And also for like cigarettes, because that's the most common thing. There is some herbal substitute, but some of the substitutes actually do, because they're herbal, they do get the actors dizzy. but they're legal, perfectly legal, which I thought was interesting.
Interesting.
So if you ever wanted to look cool on, it's not cool, but if you ever wanted
Smoking is not cool, Norm.
it
No
is
matter what you
absolutely
say.
not cool. But if you wanted to have one on screen and not take nicotine,
Don't smoke. Don't smoke. Don't smoke. Don't smoke. Don't smoke.
yeah.
I feel like that still doesn't solve the problem though of, if you're someone who doesn't know how to inhale properly. I feel like having a
Is
non-nicotine
there a
cigarette
proper
is
way
gonna-
to inhale smoke cigarettes in Canada, Braga?
I don't know if there is a Canadian way
Did they
to do
teach
it.
you this in school?
Do you roll it in a maple leaf?
I would not advise smoking maple leaves, just to be clear.
See, I grew up in tobacco country, and it used to be that there were kids like during the harvest when it was time to cut tobacco. There were kids that would just not show up to school that week. They'd be all out in the fields. And one summer when I wasn't being a lazy ass like you, Wes,
Thanks, Will.
I had a job cutting tobacco.
So are you saying that
Many
this
jobs
podcast-
of child Will.
No, this was high school, Will, in fairness.
The many jobs, like summers of Will.
Well, this was okay. So cutting tobacco is like a 3-day thing. So you get 3 days and you made $50 or $60 probably.
So you were in the pocket of big tobacco? Is
No,
that
I'm
what
not
you're saying?
in the pocket of big tobacco. I grew up in tobacco country.
Sounds like big tobacco was.
Do I?
Did you have a
are
different
these-
outfit for each of these jobs?
Yeah, I wore overalls and a hayseed outfit for this one.
Just overalls, right?
The upshot of cutting tobacco, the thing that you learn very quickly, just overalls, is that when you cut the tobacco, you had to wear rubber gloves inside the leather gloves you were wearing, when you're working the machete, because the nicotine, the juice from the stem would soak through the gloves,
They'll stain your hands.
and
right?
well, you'd get super jacked up. It wasn't that it would stain your. I mean,
would just
staining your hands is bad, I
absorb it.
guess. But yeah, you absorb. It would come through the leather gloves, and you would like people drop dead of heart attacks all the time during tobacco cutting time because they get they have a nick fit basically. It was real bad.
Upshot does not mean upside, by the way.
Two different words.
Oh,
words.
all right.
So yeah, Norm, you're gonna make some blue meth for us next week, and we'll
I
we'll
got a
shoot
gram.
video.
I got a scale and everything.
I know that's good scale, right?
$18 scale, perfect.
Yeah,
on Amazon.
it's funny because when you that's the scale I use for coffee. It's the same one. It's the AWS SC 2kg.
2 kg meaning its max capacity is 2 kilograms.
2 kilograms, but the resolution is 0.05 of a gram, so you get a tenth of a gram resolution, which is what you need for coffee, basically.
And for meth, apparently.
I don't know about that, but the interesting thing about that is when you buy that from Amazon, Amazon starts recommending all sorts of other interesting things as well.
Can you compensate by buying a bunch of like Hunger Games books or something afterward?
But I think that's going to make it worse, not better.
Okay.
Yeah, then you just get a bow and arrow and a bunch of drug shit too.
Archery is very popular.
That's true. Couple of rumors. We'll get in the rumor section of the show. Bigger iPhone screen. Next iPhone. We're not going to talk about it too much.
Really?
No.
'Cause the second you said that, I set aside half an hour to talk about next iPhone rumors.
I'm going to go to the bathroom. I'll be back in a little bit.
So,
Yeah.
eggs on the table. Next iPhone, the new iPhone.
Oh no.
Late summer, not fall. Late summer, 4-inch screen, 1152 x 640 resolution.
You think they're going to up the resolution?
4-inch.
Really?
Up the resolution, change the aspect ratio. Not necessarily a taller phone, but not so.
Fatter?
I don't know about fatter.
So the question is, are you going to get one even though you have an iPhone 4?
I think buying the iPhone 4S was one of the bigger mistakes I've made in the past
But you have now made that mistake.
6 months. Yes, I have.
I'm okay. I bought a 4S.
I
I also bought an iPad 2, which you've
it's
given
been
me.
widely rumored that Apple will go up to a 4-inch screen for the next iPhone. Wall Street Journal reported that suppliers have already Apple's locked in the suppliers for the cases and productions is starting, which is why if production is starting now, that leads me to believe that it will be a late summer launch rather than a fall launch. So if they do a 4-inch screen, there are a couple ways they can do it. Right now, it's a 3.5-inch screen, 960 by 640 resolution with a, I think, 328 PPI.
You think?
I'm pretty sure.
Okay.
And if you go 4 inches, you can scale the screen 4 inches, make the phone bigger, but still have 960 by 640. If you do that, the pixel per inch drops to 280, which is
Which is
still
the same
higher.
as the iPad.
No, it's still higher than the new iPad, which is about 260. But you do hold the phone close to your face. So Apple could get away with calling a 960 by 640 4-inch screen Retina.
I want to tell you a secret, Norm. No matter what they release it as, they're going to call it a Retina screen, regardless of what the actual PPI is.
Well, that's what I said get away with.
right.
They could also change the increase the size to 4 inches, keep the same aspect ratio, and increase the number of pixels. That is something that's very unlikely because then current apps at 960 by 640 will have to be scaled up or run in a frame like they do on iPad. That's not going to happen.
The thing we'll find out, we'll know, because if they're going to change the resolution of anything, they have to announce it at WWDC pretty much when they announce iOS 6.
Yes.
So we'll know in a few weeks.
Which could be when they announce a phone. They could change. Some people
They're not going to announce the
they are
phone in a
not.
few weeks.
They could increase the resolution to 1024 by 768, which is iPad 1 resolution, and just move everything to that scale.
No chance.
I don't think that's going to happen either. And I think the more likely scenario is changing the aspect ratio, making it taller or wider, depending on how you hold the phone, and having it at about an 1152 by 640 resolution, which means that 960 by 640 apps still run. You will have sidebar.
There's a whole family of baby goldfinches on the bird feeder right now. Like 6 of them.
And they just flew away. But on the home screen, adding an extra row of icons would be no problem.
No chance.
Okay.
They might go 16 by 10. They're not going to go 4 by 3.
Eggs on the table.
I'm not putting eggs on the table.
Not gonna lie, I am not even remotely like this.
You like eggs.
You like old stuff.
Well, it's not even that I like old stuff. It's just
Oh,
this
boy.
isn't just the sort of thing I can really get super excited about because it doesn't. I don't feel like it's going to change my iPhone experience
Oh,
dramatically.
no. Right now,
Right?
no. It's not going to make this iPhone worse. Unless then app developers are going to be forced to develop for a different resolution screen. We'll find out in WWDC.
Well, we'll find out about the screen stuff because they do have to announce the screen resolutions. If they change the way iOS renders apps at a low level so that people have to redo apps so that they scale more like Android and well, I guess
And
Android.
for all we know, they could be keeping it at 3.5 inches for another generation.
Yeah, I mean, I don't. After I've been using some of the larger Android phones again, and like the bigger screen is nice for some things, and it is really, really awkward. But it basically means you're not able to use the phone with one hand.
Well, and bigger these days means bigger than it did a year and a half ago. I mean,
Yeah.
my phone, the Evo, is a bigger screen than the iPhone screen, and I think this is it's a pretty ideal size.
I think that's a very good size. Like
Yeah.
I think the 4
4 inch,
up to
4.1 inch.
4.2, 4.3 probably at the outside. I'm pretty comfortable with. I think once you get above 4.3, then things start getting real crazy.
What's the
And-
1X?
I don't remember. I think it's 4.5. I'd have to look.
The consensus is that if they are going to go for a bigger screen, Apple, then it will be a 4-inch screen because then they can.
Is that
still
what Gruber
say,
says when you say
that is-
consensus? That's
consensus
what
is
you mean, right?
Wall Street Journal and people in the know.
Wall Street Journal has been consistently. You know, we didn't talk about this on the podcast, but did you see the article where I think Harry McCracken went through
Digitimes
and debunked all the Digitimes Apple rumors? And what was their percentage? It was like 7% or something like that. It was
Very
really,
small.
really
I mean,
low.
They just every other day it's a supplier rumor.
Well, because it turns out if you put, "Hey, I have an iPhone supplier rumor," then a lot of people come and look at your site, whether it's right or not.
Yeah.
So, I don't know. I'm interested in whatever they do next. I am.
Really?
Yeah, it's hard to believe. I know, but I don't think. I think the bigger screen is probably a reality. I don't think they're going to be able to continue to release a 3.5 inch iPhone, and that's going to hurt them if they go another year.
The other rumor that came out a while ago, and this is there's less verification behind this one even, is that they are getting rid of the dock connector with this next generation.
I think that that's a good move.
I mean, how many years old is that now?
It is
Original
really
iPod.
old. and
2001.
It is a
2000 is second gen iPod.
and that is so much dust and liquids fall in that. All your accessories will be outdated.
Well, I think that Apple probably is okay with that.
All those car accessories, cars with built-in iPhone lines. Oh my goodness!
But I
Well,
mean,
that's why the aux-in is better.
I mean, to be fair, the writing's been on the wall for ages, though, because when you look at all the things that a dock connector does, it does data, it has like audio output on it, like it's all stuff that AirPlay does now, or that
Well, it's funny because I've been doing research about the USB ports. You know, you see, we saw when we were at CES, the Las Vegas Convention Center, and a few places has wall power plugs with USB ports built into them. And the integrating your power and your data charging in one port is great when you're at your house and you control the connection. But when you're at a convention center, an airport, or something like that, I'm a little weird about plugging my data connection for my phone into essentially an unprotected, it's not a protected interface, right? USB is not a protected interface for phones. So, there's no reason somebody couldn't put a forensic data capture device behind those USB ports in a public place and rip everything out of your phone. And I've been talking to some forensics people about that. I'm going to write a story about it as soon as I get one more response back. But it's to the point that I'm thinking I'm going to make some power only USB cords, because you can do that. You can cut a couple of wires in the USB cord and have something that only does power and doesn't do data for public use.
Would it be possible to pull that data off your phone without any sort of notification on the phone, without you noticing?
That's the thing I'm trying to find out. I know that I talked to the people who do PC forensic stuff. And they don't do a lot of phone, unfortunately.
If your phone is in USB, like the both charge and host mode, then there's no reason why, that phone plugged into a wall couldn't have data pulled off it.
Well, so the thing about the PC, about the phone forensic stuff especially, is it's designed to like get somebody's phone for 5 minutes, grab everything off of it, and leave it essentially unchanged, is my understanding. The forensics people are kind of hesitant to talk on the record a lot of times, because they don't want people to understand how their forensic stuff happens, and it's different for each of the main phone OSs. So Android handles it differently than iOS handles it differently than Windows Phone and BlackBerry.
Well, I mean, if you look at the way that some of the
and Symbian Nokia people.
If you look at the way some of the iOS like jailbreaking stuff works, though, as far as I know, I mean, there's certain parts of that process where like information is basically being pulled off your phone and you don't see anything happening visibly, right? So I mean, conceivably, it seems like that is totally possible.
Yeah, or it may just be that like you think you plug it in, you think the phone's crashed, and when you reboot, your phone has been completely, everything's been copied off of your phone.
That's
it's unlikely.
I've seen everything.
Yeah.
That sounds like the sort of thing that would just be like totally rife for like, DEF CON or one of those like hacker conferences where you set up, hey, free charging station.
Just don't take electronics to DEF CON. Use paper and pencil there. I'm serious.
Tinfoil hats, people.
You don't take a phone to DEF CON. Never, ever take electronics to DEF CON. Yeah. So that's the
words of wisdom from
Will
Will Smith.
I don't think the dot connector is going to go away this next generation. That's my thought. I don't think they have wireless charging stuff that's good enough at this point.
I don't think so either. No,
and not being able to wireless charge in the car.
I don't think it'd be wireless.
Like
I don't think wireless would be the replacement.
Oh, you
like a new connector.
Oh yeah, okay,
with MagSafe.
That's possible. A MagSafe connector for the iPhone would be great, fantastic. I love that.
I feel like that's a little less. Well, when you think about what makes MagSafe good on a laptop, it's because the laptop has weight. It stays in one place.
No,
I feel
understand.
like if you, but I mean,
the phone has weight too.
I feel like it would be less useful if
it's useful, for example, a dock, because right now the 30-pin dock connector is clipped on.
Right,
so squeeze the pins, clip it on, and in MagSafe when you just pull it off.
I know, but I feel like if you're calling it MagSafe, you're implying that it, introduces some level of safety, which I think would be misleading.
No,
right?
I'm not gonna flip my phone around like a whip.
But the difference is with MagSafe, you're not likely to bend and break those pins off. I always feel like that's
right.
Like that of the points of failure on the iPhone, that one's pretty high on the list, I think. Both from the cable side and the phone side, because the cables are easy to crush too.
Right.
Like I the one in my car I had to replace the other day because I stepped on it or something and bent it just enough that it doesn't go in right anymore. Last rumor is that this year there will be as many as 5 Nexus phones instead of just one.
Say what?
Yeah, because we needed more Android phones. The rumor I think is that there are going to be multiple vendors making Nexus phones when they announce Jelly Bean or Jelly. Is it Jelly Bean? It's Jelly Roll. It's Jelly something. Jelly Stone.
No,
Jelly. You jelly?
Jelly
oh
bean,
God,
Jelly
I didn't say anything just so you wouldn't say it, and and you did anyway.
Yeah, so I would like to see more Nexus phones rather than crappy, customized phones. I think that's not a bad thing.
Signature phones. Google signature.
Signature, yeah, exactly.
Hey, that actually be if they offered that, pay $100 and we'll put the
stock
Android on your on your Captivate or over.
Well, it's we got to stop making fun of the Captivate because it's 2 years old at this point. But yeah,
yes, I think that would be a very good
people would pay for that. I think. Of course, you can do it with Cyanogen if your phone's supported. so it's no problem. The interesting side note to this is that Engadget went down and figured out all the phones that actually have Ice Cream Sandwich that didn't launch with Ice Cream Sandwich now, and it was a stunningly small list.
Yeah, it is not a good situation for Ice Cream Sandwich.
Yeah, what are Ice Cream Sandwich for you?
Hell no.
Yeah, HTC had I think 2 phones or 3 phones, and then Samsung had the unlocked or Canadian versions, or sometimes the unlocked Canadian version.
Yeah.
Of the Galaxy 2, Galaxy S2, a bunch of tablets. Motorola's only phone that has Ice Cream Sandwich that didn't launch with it is the Motorola Zoom Wi-Fi edition. So that's a tablet, not a phone, I guess. No LG phones, and I think no HTC phones. Maybe like a couple of Australian ones. I don't remember exactly, but it was. I didn't count exactly, but it was around a dozen at the outside, and really specific subsets of the phone. And we're gonna see Jelly Bean later this like June, I guess, or when's Google I/O? It's coming up soon.
June,
Yeah. So
well, the worst part about that too is that it was in response to Sony taking their sweet time and putting Ice Cream Sandwich on their phones and stuff. And Google themselves, I can't remember who it was, but someone at Google basically said, we don't think that waiting 5 or 6 months for Ice Cream Sandwich is much like that's totally acceptable, which I think is kind of bullshit. But
I mean the thing that's going to happen is that's going to be a problem for the enthusiast community, not for the mainstream community. But I think the mainstream community is buying iPhones. I think when Verizon's smartphone option was Android, then Android had a lock. Now that now that everyone but T-Mobile customers can get iPhones, it changes the dynamic a lot. And I mean, I have to say, Ice Cream Sandwich is really nice. Like using it, it's been really great. Well, we'll talk about that in a minute. But anything else on the news front before I go on to what we've been testing?
I want to talk about the story this photographer wrote. There's a bunch of interesting photography stories this week.
I didn't know which of these to put on the list, so I apologize.
Both of them. One, we saw at NAB, Red was there, Red camera makers, and for example, Peter Jackson is filming The Hobbit with Red Epics.
Book of Eli was on Reds, right?
I don't think Book of Eli was on Reds. There must maybe
They did shoot digital.
they should maybe not the Epic. The Epic shoots
No, the Epic. Yeah, the
Epic's new and it shoots 5K video.
That's crazy.
5K?
5K.
Is that so? If your image is bouncy, you can image stabilize down to 4K?
I don't think that's how it works. Maybe it is. I honestly don't know. But it does shoot 5K video at very high frame rates, up to 120 frame per second.
That's a lot of frames.
And so what a photographer wanted to figure out is that could he use this camera, shoot video, and then pull stills from the video in place of photography stills? Because instead of having a rig where you mount both a video camera and a photo camera and then have to change your settings, you could just have one. And anyone who's, if you've tried pulling stills from video, you know that it's difficult because most videos, there's compression, and also the frame rate is low, the shutter speed is low, so it's about 24 frames per second, 30 frames per second, and you get a lot of motion blur. With the Red Epic, you can shoot 5K RAW at 120 FPS and get really high quality stills. And what you found is that you can. It's still there's still some trade-offs. You can't change like per shot.
What's the resolution of a 5K still?
It's about 14 megapixels.
Is this 5K horizontal pixels?
Yeah, by about 3,000 or something.
Yeah.
It multiplies out 2,000 something.
So it's going to be like a 5 megapixel image. Or
no,
4
it's
megapixel.
a 14 megapixel image.
14. Okay, that's a big picture.
Yeah. So 14 megapixel picture, sharp picture with a great lens on a video camera. It's going to look almost as good as one taken with a DSLR.
So that takes a lot of the skill out of taking photos. I would.
Well,
think.
there is still a lot of skill in cinematography skill, and of course,
Right.
this is a $65,000 rig that's much bigger than than a DSLR, so it's less portable.
Okay.
But aside from the technical challenges and the technical achievements by this camera, you found that by recording everything, and just scrubbing through it after the fact, you get moments that you're just never going to get with a photo.
Well, this is like Stapleton's secret weapon for video game screenshots.
Video game
kind
screenshots.
of, yeah.
Yes. So when you take video game screenshots now, a lot of companies, they mock up their screenshots. So either using developer tools, like for
Or like
example,
the equivalent of Gary's Mod, kind of.
yeah, like for example, I think Modern Warfare does it the worst. Anyone in games business who's received press screenshots of Modern Warfare, they're completely staged. You never see those scenes. It's like the perfect composition.
Like the guy's
perfect
Michael Bay running away from the
explosions,
explosion.
right? Perfect
and,
animation.
There's
It's
a
like
Jeep upside down.
yeah,
in one
it's
corner.
and all the
Yeah.
screenshots have the same like follows perfect like photography rule of thirds. But it's never a scene you actually see in the game with the HUD on or anything like that. And so in the game screenshot world, if you want to take a screenshot for a web story or a magazine, you can hit Fraps and hit your screenshot button, when an awesome scene comes on, or you can record video, uncompressed AVI footage, which records gigabytes and gigabytes of game capture at your full native resolution, and then scrub through that in Virtual Dub afterward.
and pick out the
And
one
pick
frame
out
you want.
the one frame you want if you turn off your motion blur, your anti-aliasing, and your post-processing effects, which is how people do it now.
Yeah. It's very time consuming still.
Time consuming, but the results are much better and more natural because you actually see stuff that actually happens
Minus the post processing.
in the game. Which goes to the other story, which is about CG,
The photorealism thing.
and now that CG software, CG software has been great and cheap for a long time now, and you go to like the CG Society forums, and people post amazing CG images that look photorealistic.
Yeah, it's things like recreate. The thing that I always think about, because the first time I saw this that I realized it was CG was at the beginning of Fight Club when they do that the zoom out of the trash can.
Zoom out of
right?
the trash can to zoom over the oven.
Yeah.
With the refrigerator. That's all CG. And
At that time, it was incredibly expensive.
yes, now it's still kind of expensive, but it's anyone can do it, and it's being used. CG is used in advertising and marketing in places that you think their photos being used, and photographers are. One photographer at least is worried that CG is going to replace some photography skills. Need for still photography.
This is a conversation we've had multiple times, because when Photoshop became a thing and people were compositing 10 or 15 or 20 photos into one image, then there was the same conversation. Like this is just the inevitable march of progress, and photographers have to get on board, I think.
Yeah, and also I think photographers can do both. What you're going to get out of photography, like the video stuff, is more natural. I think there's a tendency, like going back to that Modern Warfare example, when someone is sitting with computer graphics in front of a computer and trying to artificially compose a scene,
Yeah.
you're going to try to make it too perfect, and that perfection is going to make is going to look fake.
Well, and then the other thing is, a lot of times it's still going to be easier to just make it happen in the real world.
Mm-hmm.
Like if you look at the Modernist Cuisine photos, those guys could have rendered all of those pictures where they did the cutaways of the pans and the grills and all that stuff, and instead it was just much easier to do it for real and
Take on that challenge.
and yeah, it was much easier to do that for real and do it in Photoshop, because many more people have Photoshop skills than have 3D modeling skills. Like it's always going to be more expensive to do 3D modeling than Photoshop, just because the barrier to entry is higher.
But the barrier to entry is lowering.
It's decreasing, but it's still 2D editing is going to be easier than 3D editing. It's going to be easier than video editing is going to be, like video animation is going to be. We're never going to reach a point where it's easier to do a 3D model of something than it is to take a photo of the 3D model and then retouch it. I don't think.
I think we're going to get close.
Maybe.
Eventually.
Maybe. I like being wrong. It's something I do all the time. Anything else? Wes?
No.
Braga? You had a good story on ours today. Or maybe yesterday.
Was it the real-time web piece?
The
Real-time web.
Real.
No, it's the reactive web piece is what I
Oh,
was
it
talking
was
about.
it was the reactive. Yeah, that was from earlier today.
So-
That was
We have a site that's reactive.
tested.com.
Tested.com is reactive.
So if you resize
Explain what reactive is.
Right, of course. Reactive web design is basically it's sort of a concept that's been around for a while, but was given a better name in the last few years. And it's basically a technique where websites are developed so that they respond to, the device or, the browser or the tablet or whatever that they're viewed in. So if you can code a website once, and when you view it on your desktop, it looks different than when you view it on your phone.
Well,
You're telling me not to use tables.
Yes,
No
no
tables,
tables, no
dude.
blink tags, no
iframes?
scrolls, no iframes.
Oh man, I love iframes.
No, this is all using CSS3
CSS,
stuff
yeah.
and more recent web standards. But yeah, basically the gist of it is you code a website, you code it once, and you do it in such a way that when you view that same website on a mobile device, the website is smart enough to sort of rejig itself so that, images get smaller and text moves around.
It
and
even
reflows.
rearranges the flow of the page.
Yeah,
to
exactly.
Better suit the resolution.
Certain things can be hidden. You can make navigation simpler. It's sort of a way to save time during the development process so that you don't have to go ahead and make a separate mobile website and a separate,
As long as I got
website.
fixed with columns.
Yeah.
Well, and it's more from talking. Mike Horn did that when we were building the new Tested, and there's still some stuff to work out. But I think for the most part, he did a pretty good job. Thanks, Mike. I don't know if you're watching. But the thing that's interesting to me about it is it's not just an upfront cost; it's also a maintenance cost. Because
Yeah.
when we had two separate when we had mobile sites and main sites for Tested and Giant Bomb, Screen, Anime Vice, and Comic Vine, it's double the time anytime you make any kind of change at all to the site. So by doing the reactive HTML, responsive. Sorry, I always mess that up. Then you're able to do stuff much faster. So when we start, we're going to roll out. This is something we can talk about later, but we've got a bunch of fixes coming to the site next week because Andy and the other top men are back working on Tested again, and we should have some good stuff to show you. Hopefully Monday and Tuesday and Wednesday. So we'll see.
Woohoo.
But yeah, the reactive thing is new and I think pretty responsive. It's so new I can't even remember the name.
Responsive drinking game?
Yeah, exactly. Every time I say that wrong, everybody does a shot. It's pretty neat because it just works for the most part.
Yeah, I had a lot of fun yesterday when I was writing that, just opening up websites and just resizing the window and just watching everything kind of reflow itself automatically. It's kind of mesmerizing.
Yeah, and the benefit is, of course, the standard sites work everywhere. So
yeah, I mean it's the big sort of caveat is that it's not good for everything. More complex sites, or one of the creative directors at ours was basically saying that when you have sort of really complex editorial or advertising needs, it does not work very well.
Well, that is definitely the ad banner situation is going to be real weird with those things.
That's primarily why ours doesn't, because of course you write about responsive design and everyone says, well, why aren't you using responsive design? And it's like, well.
So who are some of the examples of sites that are doing it really well?
You didn't notice. You didn't mention Tested. I can't. I'm really. My feelings are hurt, Matt.
Well, you know why? I didn't realize that. I didn't realize that the redesign.
That's
was,
fine.
That's
fine.
Hey, I haven't gone around and resized the Tested window lately.
I'm so disappointed in you.
I know. I'm sorry.
But it was Boston Globe.
The Boston Globe is probably the most sort of high profile example.
After Tested, you mean?
Yeah, after Tested.
Yeah.
Boston Globe. I used another example of the Sasquatch Music Festival. I don't know who designs that site, but that was sort of another example. There were a lot of web designers and portfolio people are sort of the other big sort of use cases for that.
It's pretty new.
Yeah, it's probably the concept isn't new, but the actual implementation is only in the last year or two.
And it works in Chrome, Safari. It works in WebKit stuff, Firefox, and IE9.
Newer? IE9 and newer. Yeah, anything recent it'll work in, which is kind of nice. So
that is a big.
I sense geographical bias in those selections.
Yeah, Sasquatch Music Festival.
That's on the West Coast.
In Canada.
North.
The
South
Sasquatch
Canada?
Music Festival is not a Canadian music festival.
I know it's
a
in
Washington.
Yeah. But
Washington is the
South
Canada of America.
I don't know if I'd agree with that.
I'm so disappointed. I'm going to play the music, and we're going to talk about what we've been testing. So, Norm, you went on one of those dumb duck boats the other day.
I did. Oh boy.
Do you know? I want to go ahead and tell you. Do you know how if I had known they were taking you out on duck boats, I might not have let you go.
Why?
They have a terrible safety record, despite what.
No one has died on one.
Not in San Francisco.
Really?
What's a duck boat?
So
the duck boats are those convertible boat cars.
Oh, the amphibious things.
they are.
Yes, they call them the ducks here in the United States.
Yes.
They might call them the geese in Canada. I don't know.
No.
This was for a Sony event where they took a bunch of people out to shoot photos with their new Alpha Nex cameras.
So these are the mirrorless cameras.
They had a translucent lens camera and a Nex camera.
Explain to what's a translucent lens camera.
In camera technology, you have point and shoots, which have small CCD sensors, some CMOS sensors, and then you go up to DSLRs, which have a optical viewfinder because there is a mirror that it splits between that flips up between the camera lens. It's between the camera lens and the sensor, and the mirror reflects light, so you can actually see exactly through the center of the lens, not like looking through an optical viewfinder, an old point and shoot, where you actually only see like a corner, and it's not exact. It doesn't work well for macro shots.
So so in a point and shoot,
Most modern point and shoots don't even have
Right.
Optical viewfinders. But in the old days, and you're talking like old disposable cameras, when you look through the hole, you're seeing approximately what the camera lens sees. But as you get closer to your subject, that it's
Yeah.
they differ
Well, because
skew.
the lens is 2 inches up and to the left or
Yes.
down of the
So DSLRs have a mirror that flips up, and there's a category of cameras called mirrorless cameras that don't have the mirror, and so you go straight from the lens to the sensor, but you don't have an optical viewfinder. You can have an electronic viewfinder. Some cameras do have an optical viewfinder, but it's not mirror based, so you get the offset, like the Fuji X Pro 1. But Sony also has technology they call translucent lens, and so it's not a mirror. It's a translucent lens that lets you have an quote unquote optical viewfinder, but it doesn't flip up and. Because
So
it
this is
actually
the
goes
thing
through
that
it.
dangles out the top of the camera, right?
No, it's in right
It's in the
between
back?
the lens and the sensor.
Oh, okay.
And the advantage of having a translucent lens, which I think it's a technology that Sony patents, is that without the mirror flipping, you get faster autofocus.
Oh, okay. Do you lose image quality because there's a translucent thing in the middle?
The image quality
It's a little dimmer,
is up
right?
for debate.
There's conversations on DP
Yes,
Review and
exactly.
Scary Hardcore Film Nerd.
So what they announced last night and what I went to see last week was a translucent lens camera. I think it's the A37. It's an entry level one. This is their competition. They're offering to compete with the T2i, T3i from Canon, and also what I was more excited for was the NEX F3, which is replacing the NEX C3, $600 mirrorless lens camera with an APS-C size sensor. Entire write-up, video, everything's on the site. I think more interesting, though, is their trends for sales for the mirrorless category. Now, Samsung at CES has already said that they are not doing point and shoots anymore. They're only doing mirrorless. That's their entry-level camera. And you, of course, have mirrorless cameras from Panasonic Olympus, which are the Micro Four Thirds format sensor size.
Yeah.
And Sony is only doing APS-C size sensors for mirrorless cameras. They do have a ton of point and shoot still because they still make a lot of money from those cyber shots. Nikon makes a ton of money from their Aston Kutcher cameras, their Coolpix cameras.
The Cooch camera?
Yep. But those sales have been dropping about 20% annually because of smartphones.
Yeah. Why not? Why do you need a point and shoot when
Well,
you
the
can
point and
get
shoot, the technologies that they're putting into point and shoots are some video, long zoom, so you get like 20x optical zooms.
Yeah, but
and again, if you look at the sales figures, which they haven't actually publicly disclosed, those cameras are only sold during things like Black Friday.
they're Christmas gifts. You give them to
They're
graduates.
throwaway Christmas gifts.
The thing to me is that there's no amount of optical zoom that's going to make me give up the ability to mash a button and send a picture to Instagram.
Sure. I don't think. Yeah.
Like the fact that you have to until you can just post those from wherever you are. I'm not interested. I'm done with point and shoots. But I think I'm going to buy one of these mirrorless. I think this seems like a good buy.
This year, I think Sony's anticipating that 9 million of these cameras will be sold, which is a fair amount across the United States, and I can only see that going up. More interesting, though, is that now that we're kind of moving away, at least in the enthusiast market, away from megapixels, like, for example, Nikon's DSLR, D800, is 35 megapixels. Canon's more expensive 5D Mark III is less, I think 16 megapixels or something.
But I mean, the thing about the thing about megapixels is that when you're talking about that resolution, unless you have a really specific need for that kind of resolution, it's just a liability. I mean, it's just more shit for you to have to store.
Yes, and we know that megapixels don't mean much. The conversation is going to move over to sensor size, and when you go to a Best Buy, when you go to a web store, you're going to see these cameras labeled by the sensor size.
Do you think the sensor size is more relevant as a idiot-proof metric than the megapixels are?
I think it is a good compromise between an idiot-proof metric and also something that is relevant. I don't think it is the end-all be-all.
Because a shitty sensor that's huge still is going to be bad pictures, right?
Yeah. Yes.
Yeah. Okay.
Absolutely.
So what else did you? What's
and then I got on a boat, and then I got on a duck boat and went around the bay.
You risked death to get this story.
And it was a car that went to the pier, and then some Navy captain had to take over and drive the boat.
So I can one up that because next week, Samsung, for their mirrorless cameras, is sending journalists up in Toronto on a hot air
Samsung
balloon.
has mirrorless cameras.
You go.
So,
Wow.
Yep.
so
that is the invite that I got yesterday.
I've been doing this for a fairly long time, and generally, when you get an invite to an event and it's on a boat, that is a really bad sign. Because like that, what they're saying when they put you on a boat is, "Hey, we want to make sure you can't leave once we tell you what you're here to see." But Norm, you were excited about this. This seems like,
For the
despite
camp,
the
yes.
fact that they put you on a death boat,
Yep.
it seems like it's a kind of cool thing. Did we adequately explain what the duck boats are?
yeah, no, we have
Okay.
those in Toronto.
I don't know why they're amphibious. Why they call them ducks though? Because you'd think if they were ducks, they'd
Ducks
be
can
flying
walk
boats.
on land and
Yeah, but
kind of waddle in water.
there's more
And
amphibious.
This duck boat waddles a lot in water.
Yeah, they don't go very fast.
No, they do
Yeah.
not.
Which camera? We haven't obviously tested them for. You spent some time with them, but we haven't tested them for real. What's your like? If I'm buying a camera, the $600 one is the way to go.
$600 NEX F3 is the way to go.
F3, and that's the follow up to the C3 that you have.
Mm-hmm.
What happened to the D and E?
There are no D&E. There's the C3,
Failures.
5N, and 7. The joke is that someone at Sony really likes BMWs.
That is a pretty funny joke. Ha ha ha. Let's see what else we've been testing. We went to Adam's workshop this weekend.
Want to talk about that now?
Yeah, you want to save it for fake
I
outtakes?
want to save it.
Okay, big finish.
Let's segue into because I've also been testing a camera as well.
Oh, you've been testing a camera?
Well, I just picked it up yesterday, so I've kind of slowly been. It's the Fuji X Pro One that I tried.
Oh,
back
that's that
at-
crazy expensive one.
Yeah, that's the crazy expensive one that I tried back at E3.
CES.
CES. One of my.
What?
E3 is the Canadian CES.
Yeah, so it's the Fuji X Pro One. It's nice. I can't even remember half of the specs on it offhand. I just
Doesn't
know
matter.
that-
Have you looked at
that's
the
it,
pictures
right?
on your computer yet or not?
What?
No, I
Good
haven't.
are you? You can't remember specs offhand.
I am. Norm, I am not you.
He's tired. Cut him
All
some
right,
slack.
You've been flapping.
Right, his arms are tired.
This is the they are tired. This is the cool one that has sort of like the electronic viewfinder on it that overlays the information that you're shooting. So
So it is a HUD.
yeah, it's basically a HUD. Yeah, it's aperture information and shutter information and does the fancy level and it's quite nice.
Wait, it
but-
overlays the EVF image on the optical.
Yes.
So to be clear, this one looks like a rangefinder. It looks
Yeah.
like a Leica. It has a very solid construction. Has that kind of old fake leather plastic texture.
I love
on
that
it.
from the
No,
old
it
Nikons.
doesn't. It's just straight. This
Well,
one's
it's
just straight metal.
plastic,
Yeah.
Black
straight
anodized
plastic and
metal?
metal.
Yeah.
but has like the ridges that make it look like
It's knobbly.
like broken leather.
It looks like an old Nikon camera or an old Leica, is what
Yeah.
you're saying.
So yeah, and has lots of physical knobs and switches, and none of the digital stuff. So you have physical
Yeah.
EVF or exposure compensation, physical shutter speed.
Yep.
Oh, I
But
like
it is
that.
a mirrorless camera, so
Yes.
it is APS-C. And last year you reviewed for us their not the X Pro one, but their first mirrorless camera, which
The
didn't-
X100.
which was not interchangeable lens.
No.
And
this
it also
one-
didn't have an electric viewfinder, did it?
It did, but it was an earlier sort of version of it. It was not as good.
Okay.
So this one has a interchangeable lens, so you can put all the Fuji lenses on it, and Zeiss makes I think
It's
a
like
lens
4 or
yeah.
so, yeah.
It's ridiculously expensive
How expensive is ridiculous?
$1,500 to $1,800, I think, for the
Holy
body. And
shit.
yeah.
just for the body.
Yeah.
Wow, so you buy this because it looks cool.
I mean, yeah.
You buy this because it looks cool. And you like Leica.
But the
Well-
cool thing is, not only does it have that optical hole through
Mm-hmm.
it, but you have the projected electronic view
Yeah.
over that.
Yeah, it's
that-
it's a mixture of both. They call it their hybrid viewfinder because it's an optical viewfinder that also has overlaid elements.
Do you have this with you?
Yeah.
I want to look at it when we're
There's no,
done.
there's
Totally.
no power. It's powered.
No, it should be charged by now.
Oh, you charge it?
Yeah, it's
Braga's smart,
thinking
man.
ahead, man. Thinking ahead. So I was telling Norm actually the sort of interesting case for that is you can sort of do like fake double exposure with it. So the way you could with like old film cameras by shooting 2 exposures.
Yeah. You just don't
Right.
fast forward.
Yeah, exactly. So
Don't
you can do the
wind.
same thing, and it was kind of cool because I was playing around with it on the flight here, and it uses that sort of hybrid viewfinder to overlay the first image that
So you can make
took.
an onion skin.
Basically, yeah. But like it does it very, very faintly. It's very, very neat. I thought it was pretty cool. And you can also switch that. So it's not even just a hybrid viewfinder. You can also switch it to like full LCD display, whatever the hell you'd call that.
Through the optical.
Yeah, through the optical as well. So then you can, go back and actually review your images really quickly through the viewfinder if you want
which
it.
is good
which
for it turns into a dedicated EVF, which is good for when
that's it,
outdoors because you
EVF.
can't see the LCD screen.
Exactly. I mean, the quality is not amazing on it by any stretch. I mean, the quality of the back panel LCD is really, really nice. I mean, it's sharp. It's
for
very sharp.
$1,800, it should be fucking amazing.
Yeah, I know.
Wow.
But, it's nice though, because I mean, compared to the X100, which was sort of their entry level model that I tried last year,
At $1,000, as I recall.
yeah, something like that, maybe 12. It was in Canada it was 12.
Okay.
Only $1,200.
Huh?
Only $1,200.
Yeah, what a bargain.
Yeah, you know who really liked
I
that?
could get
was,
a 30D. Yeah, Mark Prince
yeah,
from
Coffee Geek.
Coffee Geek loves it.
Yeah,
But he likes... He's the target market.
yeah, that's it, right? This is a niche thing, right?
He's
This
a
is
Leica
why I like
aficionado.
being in the position I'm in, where I can test all this shit out, say it's really fucking cool, but I would never buy it.
Yeah.
So, anyways, yeah, compared to the X100, which also had sort of
Stand
like,
by your words, Braga. Buy things you like.
Yeah.
I mean,
Chan it up.
it.
If you like it, buy it.
Yeah, but I mean, I'm waiting for the 7D Mark II. We were talking.
Yes,
about
we were.
this.
Okay, all right.
Compared to the X100, which also had sort of physical buttons and knobs on it, it was hampered by this really, really like totally fucking terrible menu interface. Like you couldn't change things like aperture really easily without going into the sort of menus.
Oh, deep menus.
And yeah, it was just it was a very poor sort of hybrid design. I think they might have fixed it with firmware updates. Anyways, point is, X Pro 1 is just like awesome. It you can change pretty much everything you expect to change on a on a DSLR using physical buttons.
So at this point, you're paying for a really nice but overpriced but really nice camera instead of an overpriced but kind of janky camera.
Yeah, I mean, Fuji claims they did all this weird stuff with the X100 where they said, the reason it's a fixed lens design is we've basically mated the lens and the sensor for life so that they work really well with each other.
Yeah.
And
Making marketing excuses.
basically, yeah. And they claim they've done the same sort of thing here, which I mean, I leave it to DP Review to, verify that sort of shit. But
Cool.
yeah, it's cool. I like it. It's extravagant. It's niche.
Norm and I tested out the Espro Pot, which we saw at SCAA in Portland a few weeks ago. If you don't remember, the Espro is a dual filter French press, basically. It's a very fine mesh filter. There's two filters, so you end up with less sediment in your coffee than you get with a
No
traditional French
chewing
press.
the grounds
Hey.
at the bottom of your cup.
I like the grounds.
I was gonna say,
A
what if
little
you
bit-
like
I
the
think a
sediment?
little bit of the grounds is good. It's kind of a topper to getting to the bottom, a reward to getting to the bottom of the cup.
The nice thing about the Espro is that because it's a metal filter, just like any other French press, you get the oil and the kind of the mouth feel that you get from a normal press, but without without any of the as much of the grit as you get.
And what's special about the new one isn't just the filters, but also the capacity.
Oh, it's much bigger. Yeah,
It's about 30 ounces, which means you can get about 4 cups of coffee.
for real cups of coffee, not for 8-ounce cups. Well, I guess it is for
It is
8-ounce cups
a
of
little less
coffee,
than
but
4
yeah,
8 ounces.
That's
it's
pretty big.
It's a mighty press. I quite like it. It's a little bit expensive, is the bad news. It's $100, which is pretty high for a French press. Although in that side, when you're talking about an insulated press in that size, the starting point is $50 to $75. So it's not that expensive. It's very expensive compared to a glass 30-ounce press, though, which is like $20 generally. So I think it's really good. You can get it. They kickstarted that. So the Espro guys did their initial product, which we saw last year at SCAA, which is an 8-ounce finished press that used the same double filter technology or similar double filter technology. And I think that's fantastic, but a single serving press is very much a niche product. So this is much more mainstream for them, and I'm pretty excited about it. I think it's pretty cool.
I want AeroPress that can make 30 ounces of coffee.
Were you there when I talked to the guy who invented the AeroPress at SCAA this
that
year?
was scary.
I finally got to meet him. He's an awesome dude. So he's also the guy who invented the Aerobee, and we should talk to him because I bet he has interesting stories about making cool shit out of plastic. But he said that they've looked at doing a larger AeroPress, but the challenge with the larger AeroPress is that it's the same problem that the Espro guys had actually. When you increase the size that the plunger has to be, you increase the force it's required to push. So you could end up with a situation where somebody's having to like stand on the press with both hands
And also,
and with their feet off the ground.
a bigger circumference means more room for like problems with the actual plunger.
Yeah,
Like,
exactly.
over time, that will wear, and you won't get a good.
Well,
punch.
and when the circumference of the plunger is bigger, then you have more friction to overcome with the rubber on the plastic on the polycarb. Yeah. So it's I think they're definitely looking at doing it, but I don't know what the process is. It would be lovely for somebody who likes to do an inverted AeroPress like me, because it's much harder to do that. Like you get basically 1 cup out of an inverted AeroPress right now.
9 ounces.
Yeah.
What do those retail for these days? Like 30
AeroPress?
bucks? Yeah.
$25.
$25? Okay.
Yeah. It is, if you want to make good coffee, it is the most forgiving, easiest way to make good coffee. I think you can buy if you want it single servings. If you want bigger cups, the French press is probably the way to go.
I was going to say, because I mean, as someone right now who has a French press, I've been thinking about maybe getting an AeroPress eventually, but I just don't know whether
You don't have an
that
AeroPress?
No, I just have a French press. I mean, it's a pretty good French press, but I don't know. Would AeroPress, would that be better?
It's all about serving size. So
Right, yeah.
AeroPress, you can make 1 cup of coffee that's really amazing, or a couple of cups that are okay. With the French press, you can make 3, 4, 5 cups of coffee depending on how big your press is.
Right.
I think that the AeroPress makes, like I said, for people, if you don't want to buy an expensive grinder and you don't want to buy an expensive pour over kettle, AeroPress is the
And also,
easiest
it's more
way.
satisfying cleanup.
It is a very easy cleanup too.
Easier than a French press, really?
Yeah, because you just push the crap out the bottom.
right.
You take the
Plunge
cap
into
off
the
the bottom and plunge it right into the compost.
compost. Yeah.
Yeah. Let's see. I've also been working on the. I got the HTC One X in the other day. They were kind enough to send one to
It's on
us.
the table right now.
It is on the table. It's very white. I quite like it. The screen is glorious.
It's also very light, which I'm
Thin-
curious
very
to hear
thin, very
more about
light,
it.
curved. Back.
Is the glass curved?
The glass is not curved.
It doesn't seem like it is.
But the back is curved.
It's kind of reminiscent of the Lumia 800 design, because it has the polycarbonate shell with the screen hanging out of it.
I think it looks like the Galaxy Nexus, but the white Camry version.
What do you mean?
Like it looks, this phone looks like a Camry.
It does look like a Camry, kind of. I quite like the phone. I hadn't really spent a whole lot of time with Ice Cream Sandwich yet. It's very nice. A lot of my kind of general complaints with Android seem to have been solved. Like the general hitchiness is almost non-existent on this phone. The Sense keyboard is rough, and I haven't decided yet whether that's me going to Canada and using something I'm not familiar with, or they've made poor decisions with that camera. So, with the keyboard, the camera is also a weird bulge in the back, which I'm not sure how I feel about it.
That's a kind of an HTC mainstay, is the lens just protruding from the back of the camera.
Do you find it gets scratched? I was going to ask you about
Real
that. 'cause
fast
I know
shutter. Real fast shutter.
Yeah, the camera's fast.
My lens is definitely scratched, but I'm not sure.
Does it show up?
Yeah, I'm not sure. I've never noticed in images that's a problem. But it also, my camera, it's 8 megapixels, but it has really crap low light. So I just don't take that many photographs with it to really scrutinize.
And you're using a 4G, right? Or 3D?
Evo 4G, yeah.
Okay.
Not the weird.
Not the 3D one.
Yeah.
Okay.
Thank God.
Yeah, so I think the most notable thing about it is the screen is just amazing. Like the first thing everybody says when they see it is, "Oh my God, look at the screen!" And Norm pointed out, I think that it's because the screen is very close to the surface. Like there's not a ton of space between digitizer and actual pixels, which makes it look much more kind of.
I like this
real.
camera.
Yeah, the camera's pretty good. I haven't tried it in low light yet, which is the big test, I think, for that kind of thing.
The density on the screen though seems like it's like. Do we know what that is in terms of
It's
pixels per inch?
10,
Because it's
24 or 12.
It's a 720p screen, I
720p
believe.
Screen.
So it's and it's a 4.5. I think it's a. I don't want to say how big the screen is because I don't remember and I don't want to fuck that up.
I mean, it feels Retina, to use the stupid
Yeah.
marketing terminology.
We don't. It's a
Resolutionary?
high density screen. Yeah, resolutionary is what we prefer here. I don't like the big. I think the screen's too big. Like I love the battery life that comes with the big screen because the battery life on this phone is amazing. I literally used it for probably 3.5 hours the other day straight when I first took it out of the box and charged it all the way up. It's the battery life is astounding. Is much better than the 4S and much better than most of the other, including like the Galaxy S2, which was a 3G phone and has pretty good battery life. This was very impressive. but I don't. I think the screen's too like that big a screen. I don't like that you can't use it with one hand. Like I find myself almost always using it by picking it up and using my right hand to control the screen rather than just gouging at it with my thumb.
The battery thing is really interesting to me because my number one reason to switch off of Android when my contract is up this summer, I mean, I'll probably wait a few months, but my number one reason is battery life because my phone's battery sucks. I mean, it's not terrible, but if I turn on GPS, and use it for a while to get around town or something, or if I'm just have the screen on a lot, it's going to be in the yellow halfway through the day.
Well, that era of Android phones had kind of bad battery life in general. I felt
absolutely.
like.
But I still sort of assumed that with all the Android phones going, quad core and bigger screens and everything, that if I wanted really good all day battery life, I was probably going to have to go with an iPhone.
I don't think the 4S really gives you really good all day battery life.
I'm hoping the next one will.
Okay, fair enough.
But now I'm wondering now if there's going to be a good Android alternative because I would not have assumed that at all a year ago.
Well, so this is the dual core version. So the weird thing about the HTC One X is that there's two different CPUs in use in the phone. There's a Tegra 3 option for international customers that get 3G, and this has a Snapdragon dual core for US, and it's AT&T LTE, I believe. It may be HSPA plus, but I think it's LTE. So it's I was really shocked at the battery life. Like that of all the things that are noteworthy about this phone, the screen and the battery are the two things that kind of leapt out at me.
I wonder if I wonder how much of that, if any, is just Android 4.0 sort of like optimizations or changes or something, right? Because it's so damn light, and it's like I don't know how there's a battery in there.
Well, this is it's because you're used to a double glass iPhone,
right?
The double glass iPhone is among the heavier phones that's out there.
Yeah, but even like here, Lumia.
Yeah, but
the One X weighs about 0.6 Lumias.
Yeah,
I mean it's almost half.
Yeah, it's a little. It's a fair amount
weird.
less. That's interesting. I hadn't really looked at that. I can't remember what chipset's in the 900. But yeah, so we'll do more. We'll do a quick look of it, not too long, and I don't know what else we'll do beyond that, but it's kind of late for a review at this point. But it's worth looking at if you're on an AT&T Android. If you're an AT&T Android customer, I would say. From first impressions,
I want to skip the last thing on that list.
You don't want to talk about the wrist
stupid.
Alarm?
I do want to talk about the wrist.
Can you talk about the Fuel Band?
Yeah, sure.
Okay.
I'm wearing the Nike Fuel Band. And,
how do you like it, Norm?
I forgot to put it on this morning until about 10 a.m.
Do you feel like you're what's your burn rate right now?
What was your fuel score yesterday?
My fuel score yesterday, I actually had to shake it around to reach my 100% fuel score.
So you cheated.
At 11:55 because I realized I was at 9 dots away, or 9 dots out of 10.
Wow.
I think this
is a dark place you're going, Norm.
Yeah, I literally took it off.
I don't know if you're ready to have metrics on your life.
Took it off. If you meet your goal 6 days in a row, that's a streak.
Does Lance Armstrong tell you how awesome you are, like with the Nano? That's terrible.
I did kind of think it was a Livestrong bracelet.
It does. Okay, so compared to the Jawbone Up, which is the other
the wrist thing that is no longer
pedometer.
For sale.
They stopped selling it?
They pulled it from the market and gave everybody their money back.
Wow. Yeah, this is actually much better than that. It's a little heavier, a little thicker, but it actually connects to your device using Bluetooth as opposed to the headphone jack. So wireless connectivity, real-time connectivity updates with an app is great. The connection is actually USB on in the bracelet, so you can plug it directly into your laptop.
I like the way
computer.
the USB port is the facet for the
yeah,
bracelet,
exactly.
For
That's
the bracelet.
yeah.
It's kinda
But
cool.
they also have an adapter. It comes in the box, so if you don't want to plug that directly in, you can plug it with a USB cable to charge. I haven't charged it. I charged it full the first night I used it, and I haven't charged it since. So I want to see how long the battery life is. And the best thing, of course, is that it's a watch. So if you press the button on top,
Wait, what?
if you press the button on top, you get a time indicator plus
that is so cool.
I want
an
to see.
array
I wanna
of
see.
lights telling you how far along in your daily progress.
I know, right?
Oh, that's rad. So it's an OLED screen built into the.
I'm not sure, but I don't know if it's OLED, but it's hidden behind the plastic.
This is really tiny. Does this fit on your wrist?
I got the small one, and there are two links that you can swap in. I'm using the bigger link.
Can you really quickly summarize what this is? Because
It's a
I seem
pedometer.
to- oh, okay. So that's all it is?
All it does
Okay.
is track how many steps you walk a day.
How much is it?
Dude, I have dainty girl wrists, and I mean,
$150.
damn.
Okay, it's it's an expensive pedometer.
Well, it's in the same market as the Fitbit and stuff like that. The question I have, and something you're going to test, Norm, is
How accurate is this compared to? Like,
yeah, there's a lot of talk about the accuracy of wrist-based pedometers because you move your arm much more frequently than say if you mount it on your hip or something like that,
or
where you're
a shoe.
bouncing up and down. Yeah, or
and they require different algorithms. But we are in pedometers are old technology, and it's all about the algorithms they use to calculate. So we'll find out with Maker Faire this
do they tell you the distance you travel with that as well?
How many steps? I don't know.
But they don't tell you.
I did not
They don't extrapolate out.
I did tell them my height, so yes, they do tell you.
Yeah, because the basic algorithm, the thing that was the big revelation that allowed the Nike Plus to happen, was that if you know your height or your
Height and weight, then they can
it's
calculate
basically
your
height.
gait.
Yeah, then they can calculate how many how far you walk on each step. Which previously, when you did a pedometer, you kind of calibrated it by walking 4 steps and then measuring that distance.
You just wait because I'm gonna have my Pebble smartwatch soon.
Good luck. I will
I'm
take
gonna make the claim. Right
dumb
now,
products. Is this an egg?
this is. I would rather buy this than a Pebble smartwatch.
You say that now, but
Norm uses an iPhone. If you use an iPhone and you bought a Pebble smartwatch, you should prepare for major disappointment.
you know what? I have many phones.
Okay.
Did you read that Wired story where they profiled the 2 guys who made the Pebble smartwatch?
One of them's a Canadian, eh?
Oh, really?
He's from Vancouver.
So they did, the profile came out.
They make
earlier
Blackberries
this
in
week,
Canada too.
and they had, I guess, some hands-on time with the Pebble smartwatch, which
Woo.
great. The photo of the Pebble smartwatch actually looks much bigger than the photo. they must have used like big hands in the Kickstarter photo because on the hand that they showed for the Wired story, the Pebble smartwatch looked really big. Also, I love the last photo in that story, which the caption was like the founder, I forget his name, like carefully monitors the Kickstarter project, and it's looking at the millions he's made already in sales.
I hope he was monitoring them on his Pebble watch.
Nice. Monitoring, like he had 2 LCD screens at his desk, 2 monitors, and one was dedicated to the Kickstarter page. Watching those dollars come in.
And you know what the New York Times says about multiple monitors, right?
What does
Is
the
it
New York-
bad?
really?
Oh no, they're a thing. they might increase your productivity and are
the New
useful
York Times
for
is on it.
multitasker.
How did I miss this story?
That it was a New York Times
Last
trend
year.
piece from
Earlier
like last
this year.
month.
No, that was, it was
No,
last
it was
year.
like April or March.
Oh boy, gentlemen, would you want to do some questions? I haven't screened them today because we were running late.
Do it live.
Emails?
Mystery question.
But we do the other one.
Email.
'Cause it's, we don't do emails. We do
Emails.
No. Questions. Boom.
Hey, Tested Crew. This is Matt from Danbury, Connecticut. That's a little bit of hometown trivia for you. Danbury was one of the largest hat manufacturers in the world back when we were still an industrialized economy. Anyway, down to the question. I remember reading Will's article a few weeks ago about trying to build a convertible 4-point to 8-point USB arcade joystick. I was wondering if you had any success with that since writing the article. And also, what is the best way to get the true arcade experience in our homes now that arcades are all but totally dead? And a would you rather, would you guys rather live the rest of your life without a sense of taste or without the sense of touch? Thanks, and always be testing.
I feel like we've had that would you rather before.
I would go with taste because I think your smell is going to pick up a lot of the. Really, you'd rather never feel the gentle caress of a woman again than taste salt or sweet.
Well, no, hold on a second. So you lose the sense of touch everywhere?
Touch.
The sense of touch is your entire skin, dude.
There's a difference between
No,
being able to feel.
nope,
Not at all.
Nope. Nope.
Put it this way: the first thing that jumps to mind for me is never being able to taste brunch again.
Really?
What is
You're the
I-
worst
I-
hipster I know.
Hey,
and I hang
Waka.
out with Chan a lot.
What is the taste of brunch? You
Female
goddamn
bacon?
Canadian.
This is
Waffles.
Norm's. Oh my god.
You pick brunch over like steak or
Yeah,
or
lobster,
pick a specific food.
caviar,
What is the
foie gras.
taste of brunch?
I eat
Can you
way
open a
more
restaurant
brunch.
called The Taste of Brunch?
Oh man.
Come, enjoy the taste
In
of
Canada,
brunch.
brunch is a meal that is made of
Bacon.
It's eggs wrapped in Canadian bacon.
I
That sounds really good.
am a sucker for hollandaise sauce. Really good hollandaise sauce.
So what you're saying is you like eggs Benedict and eggs Florentine.
Yeah, and bacon.
Okay.
So you can. Why don't you say the taste of bacon, not the taste of brunch?
Well, but the thing is, if you lose your sense of taste, all you lose is bitter, sweet, sour, umami, and salty. No, not hot. Spicy's a nerve thing. It's not taste.
Oh, see that I would lose taste. There you go.
Yeah, taste is a no-brainer.
I still got hot food
Because you can still taste. You still get the flavors of things from smells, but you get no.
Well, smell and taste are
No. He didn't say smell. He said
No,
taste.
This is a poor question then.
I would
answer his real question.
Yeah, so I have not continued because I was despondent. I did talk to a bunch of people, and it seems like the way to do what I want to do, which was basically what I want to do is convert an Xbox or PS3 fight stick into something that will easily switch between 4 and 8-way performance, so that you can play games like Pac-Man and Frogger and stuff like that that really work better with 4-way sticks. Instead of Street Fighter and Mortal Kombat and stuff like that. The problem was that there's not enough clearance in fight stick cabinets or the iCade or pretty much anything for the easily convertible MagStick Plus, which you convert by I can't remember whether it's lifting up or pushing down. I think it's lifting. You lift up and twist 90 degrees, and it converts from 4-way action to 8-way action. The thing that I didn't realize is that the stick in that Marvel vs. Capcom, the Mad Catz arcade stick, the Marvel vs. Capcom 2 one, has actually a restrictor plate that you can rotate, but you have to take the whole stick apart in order to be able to rotate it.
So you need to find some way to gain access to that without taking it apart.
Yeah, so there's a couple of ways to do it, right? One is that you modify the bottom of the cabinet so that there's a hole in there that you can just jam your hand up into. Seems a little inelegant.
Just jam your hands in holes.
Put your hand in holes all the time. I mean, if you didn't have a sense of touch, you like Braga over here, that wouldn't be a problem. You just jam it up in there and you come back with no fingers. It's cool. You didn't feel that. No touch.
Until you bleed out.
Yeah, you get good at making tourniquets with dental floss and stuff, I would think.
But if I want... we don't want
no more gentle caresses of a woman, Braga. Just
No,
brunch.
I was going to say, if I wanted to
Just
taste
brunch.
that experience...
You could jam your tongue up in the hole.
Exactly.
Brilliant idea. This is Canadian school systems hard at work up there. The other way to do it is to change the top of the panel so that you put the whole thing on hinges and it's kind of easy to open. There's little latches. The other thing people have done that look pretty easy, especially if you have access to a laser cutter, is just made a custom cabinet for the. So basically, you take the guts out of the Mad Catz box and build a custom cabinet for the stick, and then you can put either put the stick that you want in or make the mechanism easy to access from outside.
You should make a really nice, like, old-timey wood case for
Like a
it.
steampunk joystick.
Yeah.
I think that's a great idea. Have little cogs.
You still have tons of wood left from that tree, don't you?
No, that's not the way it works. I'm going to make the dog bite you, Braga. We've got one more question. I have not listened to this one either, so let's just play it and see what happens.
Hello, Will, Norm, Gary, Chloe, possibly Sir Shoemaker, and others. I am Lachlan of Canberra, Australia, also known as the Maddened Man. Bit of hometown trivia. Canberra is home to Mount Stromlo, the location of the Mount Stromlo Observatory, where the Canberra bushfires of 2003 destroyed 5 historically significant telescopes dating back to 1911. This event left the observatory with only one telescope. My question will be framed more as a potential topic for discussion. What do you all think about companies branching into multiple fields? Do we run the risk of allowing one company too much control over our lives? What would you think about a society wherein you subscribe to one company, for example, Google, and they provided everything for you? Housing, communications, entertainment, socializing, nourishment, and even a career. And finally, a bonus would you rather. Would you rather be frustratedly ignorant but able to eloquently present an argument, or a genius with the vocabulary of the Incredible Hulk? Thank you muchly. Love the show. Always be testing.
I think we're already the first one.
The idiots with the good vocabulary?
Yep. That is not a would you rather.
Chloe agrees.
That was a very loaded would you
that
rather.
Was a hey.
You guys are
dumbasses. I would take the Hulk with the bad vocabulary.
Of course you would.
Yeah.
It's
I don't want to be the idiot Damn, Norm, I don't like where this is going, man. I think that the Demolition Man, the premise that you basically have given, where everything's Taco Bell or Walmart, isn't it Walmart and Demolition Man? You guys have probably never even heard of Demolition Man, have you?
Oh, I've seen Demolition
This is
Man.
why we need Gary here.
You've never seen Demolition Man?
No.
Oh, jeez.
Brag.
I think it is Taco Bell.
It's Taco Bell and something.
That-
I can't
that
remember what the other
rings a
one is. Yeah, I think that's the danger of all the cloud services and things like that. I think my wife just came into the kitchen. I don't.
If Google changed its name to Wayland
Oh yeah, and Microsoft and Apple changed its name to Utani.
and then they merged,
Yeah.
or one bought out the
What
other,
could possibly go wrong?
totally okay with that.
Really?
As long as our science fiction fantasies are fulfilled, why
Okay.
not?
Okay, sounds good. I mean that is obviously the concern. Anytime you have one company that owns the vast majority of a market, like Apple owns with the tablet market, it's not very good for consumers. Or it has the potential to be really bad for consumers, I guess is the right way to say that. So
Competition keeps people honest.
yeah, well, and competition drives the whole industry forward. If you look at what happened with like the graphics card market and the PCs in the late 90s and early 2000s, when there were 2 or 3 companies just beating the shit out of each other over and over again, we saw massive advancement, and that slowed down dramatically as different parties have bailed out. So, and that'll do it for questions this week. If you have a question, the email address is podcast@tested.com. We got 2 good questions this week. I don't know how that happened when I didn't screen them at all. I apologize for that. I usually do that and forgot this week. If you have questions, send it to podcast@tested.com. Listen to it. Make sure it sounds good. Keep it under 45 seconds. And we like Hometown Trivia and Would You Rathers if you want to send them in. And that, gentlemen, special guests, Norman, Chloe Bananas, Gina, Pacifica, will do it for us this week. We are back every Thursday. Thank you, Matt, Wes, for coming down.
Our pleasure.
Is there anything you guys would like to plug?
Speaking for
Tested.com. It's awesome.
Thanks. Would you say that it's better or worse than the Boston Globe?
You know,
And the Sasquatch Music Festival website.
I'm
Yeah.
going to say we are far more responsive than the Boston Globe.
Thanks, Wes. I think that's a great answer.
Very good. Maybe not as reactive, though.
Definitely not as reactionary.
Definitely not as reactive.
Matt Braga, thanks for coming down from Canada just for our podcast. Have fun at Maker Faire this weekend.
Woo! I'm excited.
We'll, I'm sure we'll see you around there. We'll be around all
You have
weekend.
the choice between cover. You could just bail out on Maker Faire and run Beta Breakers. Oh, how about that?
You could cover Beta Breakers
Yeah.
and tell the Canadians it's Maker Faire. That's even better. Do you know what Beta Breakers is?
It was explained to me on the way here, and I'm trying to figure out how I can portray a drunken costumed run as a mad science expo. But I mean,
You've not seen the
that's why I'm
costumes.
okay.
And since they outlawed drinking is drinking still against the rules?
I think it's against the rules. On
It used to be that
the
people
fact
would
that you had the outlawed drinking on a race,
on a 5K.
a 5K race, is very San Francisco.
I'm just imagining the sort of that scene in marathons where people are running by for the cups of water, but it's just a cup of like gin and tonic or something.
No, it's not even that.
instead.
It's that like you'll see a team of people and they'll have like a cart that has a got cooler full of margarita or something in it, right? Or just dragging a keg behind them. And also there are a lot of naked dudes, like a kind of surprising number of naked dudes. Like it's a Johnson fest down there usually, but I think that you could probably make it work because there's going to be some dudes wearing like steampunk costumes and goggles and tutus and stuff. So, like I think that this is a real. If you wanted to kind of gonzo this story up, that's the way to do it. Maker Faire, Beta Breakers, 2012. We'll be at Maker Faire all weekend. If you're going to be there and you see us, say hi. We'll be bopping around. I think I'm probably going to bust out the third-person camera on Sunday rather than Saturday because we've got a lot of video to shoot on Saturday. But yeah, if you see us, feel free to walk up and say hello and let us know what you think is cool, and we'll maybe go shoot video of it. Norm, as always, a pleasure. I'll see you tomorrow when we go shoot more videos. Until next time, stay tuned for Fake Outtakes. This outro today is brought to you by Drink Bourbon, who is a user on Tested and not a advocate for the bourbon industry. Hi there, I didn't see you.
Tested. Welcome to your new normal, Jamie. I'm gonna be like the puppet from Saw, shitting into my iPhone and making Jamie Lee Curtis watch it.
Turning your mic down. This is terrible. I don't remember that
I don't
one.
remember that one either. I was trying to think of
What is the
when
context
did
of
Gary
that?
talk about some type of horror movie.
I think we were talking about. I can't remember why we were talking about Jamie Lee Curtis and Saw.
It must have been yogurt, right?
Yeah,
I mean,
'cause-
yogurt had to be.
yeah.
Oh,
in there
right. It was
somewhere.
activity conversation. That's it. It was.
What?
It was. It
That's
was
why it
about
involved shit, too.
macrobiotic yogurt or something. I don't know. So we're low. We haven't said enough stupid stuff lately because we're real low on fake outtake songs. So if you or not fake outtake songs, just outtake songs. If you want to do the outro song, Google raw outro song file, and the right thread pops up. Lane from the forums was kind enough to post the original there or start a thread. We posted the original there. It's all linked in the thread, and you can learn how to do your own.
Sheena, those are massive strawberries. Oh my goodness!
Is that
They're
it? What?
massive?
Hey, don't talk about my wife's strawberries. What the hell is this? What the what? Norm is uncomfortable again. Yes. So let's talk about Adam's Workshop. Which, okay, I want to go ahead and say,
Please don't steal my analogy. Please don't steal my analogy. Please don't steal my analogy.
what is your analogy?
Well, can I use it first?
Go ahead.
When we went to Adam's Workshop,
Yeah.
which I will not use very descriptive words to describe the outside of it because I don't want anyone to know where it is.
That's probably
it is,
good.
It is a building in San Francisco.
Yeah. He called it a man cave.
He has called it a man cave.
And Sandra, who's the wonderful woman who helps us schedule time. Because first off, I want to say, like, dudes, like, people who think you are busy, if you're listening to a 2.5 hour podcast, you are not busy. I love you, but I saw Adam's schedule and it is terrifying. Like, he'll have a meeting at 7 o'clock in the morning and a meeting at 11 o'clock and then has to fly somewhere and there's more talking to people. And that's like every day. Like, I can do that once or twice a month and then I'll have to go take a nap. So yeah, we got to spend time with Adam this weekend.
So we went to his man cave. Again, man cave is something that Adam calls his workshop.
And I thought, oh man, that's really a lame thing to call something. I love Adam, but
I
man
think it's
cave
fine.
is a lame term, but it is entirely accurate. Like
it's a
it's
place where he builds stuff and he houses a lot of his things that he doesn't want to keep at home.
yes,
Um,
and he has like
Because
he's
he has
like a
family.
full metal
that
shop
sound
and
incriminating.
metal shop and wood shop and like
Yeah.
all the stuff that he needs to build
but
stuff.
the thing is, it's in the city. It's well
Ow.
hidden. We went in there. We shot a bunch of videos, and when we left, it was like leaving Narnia.
It's
I just wanted to go back.
it's just about 15 minutes in. I completely forgot that I was in the middle of San Francisco.
Forget where you are.
I was like, it's like when you go on a cave tour and you're walking through and like they have the funny lights and you see the room with all the weird stalactites and stalagmites and you're like, oh man, this is really amazing. And then you come out and you're in the middle of a field someplace and you forgot that you were in a field. Ultimately, it's the same thing.
Yes.
It is full of awesome stuff. Like I walked in and I was like, oh, that's an Akbar head. He's like, yeah, it came from the original mold for the Akbar heads. And I was like, really? You okay, that's pretty cool. It's like, yeah, I put it on once, but it's really, really uncomfortable because it's really tight. Mm-hmm. Whoever wore the Akbar head in the movie
had a small head.
And probably that it's a trap may not have been a line in the script. It could have just been him reacting to having the latex head squeezed over him.
Yeah, but to be fair, the head doesn't go all the way in though, right? It just goes
The
into
head,
like
no, that's the neck. It's
right.
Yeah, the neck hole is very, very small.
Okay.
I looked at it and I don't think I could put it on. I think I would probably start screaming. I mean, no joke. It looked terrifying.
So we've shot a bunch of video, and we will be going back. But what we're doing is Adam will be telling us the stories about the projects he's working on, along with the collectibles he's collected over the years and what he has in his.
We have I think 3 or 4 more videos out of the first round, and then we'll start doing some more real soon, and probably doing a podcast for that too. He wants to come down. I don't know if I want to make him come to Pacifica.
I don't think we should make him drive all the way.
You can
to
take him to
Pacifica.
the best Taco Bell in the country.
We could take him to the nicest Taco Bell in the country. But yeah, we'll get him on the podcast here before too much.
So the video we uploaded today was of the Fifth Element Zork Industries ZF1 gun.
Ooh.
And it's the project he's been working on for the longest, 13 years. And he had a great story to tell about that. So definitely watch the video if you haven't yet already. It's one of those things where I know that you play the game where I know where that's from.
Yeah. but everything, and it's there's a lot of stuff in there. Like we could do a video a week for a year, easy.
Teaser, Fifth Element gun. Is that just based off of like him just watching the movie and saying, I want to create
You
that?
haven't.
or-
You clearly have not watched the video.
No, that's what I'm saying. Teaser.
Thanks.
I said teaser.
Yes, it's
Okay.
a combination of him.
Well, he's
in
a prop. He's a prop.
1999.
He's a prop
Okay.
guy.
He did come from special effects industry.
Yeah.
Both him and Jamie. Him taking screen grabs just as a fan from the movie and figuring out using computer models and mocking everything up and then actually making it using his tools and then machining it and then starting over from scratch. Basically.
The reason I ask is because you pointed out that he had the Akbar head from the original mode.
Oh no!
So I was
If he-
thinking
if he
maybe
had
he
the
had
actual,
access to.
if he had the actual stuff for this, I don't think it would have taken 13.
No.
years.
So one of the things that we talk about, maybe not in this video, but maybe in one of the ones that's coming soon, is like a lot of the hard part is figuring out points of reference and like going out and taking either pictures of the thing if you can find a place that you can get access to it, or blowing up stills from a movie to the point that they're actually life size, and then kind of looking at it and figuring out what the actual scale is. So like finding the right, like, because everything, once you figure out what the scale is, then everything kind of falls off of that. But even with something like the Zorg gun, what did you say they made 7 of them or something for the movie?
Yep.
So there were 7 different versions, depending on whether it was the flamethrower version or the gun version or the red button version or whatever. And they may not have all been exactly the same. So it's a kind of complex process. But he made it because he wanted to make a Zorg gun. He thought it was pretty cool. So I wonder if he's going to get the Gary Oldman weird like half plastic head thing for the when he actually gets the movie. But yeah, basically you walk around in his workshop and everywhere you look, it's cool shit as far as the eye can see. And he has like a couple of he has a one really rad full size lathe, a desk mill, a full size mill too, some cool grinders, the best storage stuff I've ever seen, I think, for tools and parts. And then a whole bunch of other, like it's Norm, what was the coolest thing you saw?
I don't want to spoil it.
Okay, Norm's saving himself. It's just, yeah, you walk in, you kind of like your eyes adjust for a moment, and then you're looking around like, oh wow, that's what that is. That's interesting. Okay. So yeah, what else do we want to talk about? Anything cooking with you, Chan?
I think that's good.
What are you looking forward to at Maker Faire?
I'm looking forward to having
Churros.
yeah,
There's churros.
and
Yeah,
and
there's churros.
Oh,
it's
yes.
like carnival food.
Perfect.
So you can get a turkey leg.
Ooh.
You can get barbecue oysters. A lot of good food, and also a lot of cool people.
They had barbecued oysters last year.
Yeah, we had the barbecue oysters.
Did we?
Yeah,
I don't even remember that. Anna was there Anna was still there last year.
she
Anna's
had the
just-
mac and cheese.
Oh, that's right.
No, I'm sorry. She
No, she had the turkey leg.
No. She had the grilled cheese in the tomato soup,
Oh,
which
we
I
went
didn't
2
know
days.
was a thing.
Oh, you didn't know grilled cheese and tomato soup's a thing?
Wait,
I
what
did
do you
not know
mean?
until last year.
Together or?
Together.
Yeah, do you not know that?
Yeah.
Well, hold on a second. Like served like grilled cheese beside the tomato soup?
Yeah, and then you
dip
dunk
your
the
grilled
cheese into the
into-
tomato
Oh
soup.
yeah, no, totally. There's a place in Toronto that serves amazing combination of the two. They put pork in theirs though, and the grilled cheese.
That's fine too.
I know.
So there'll be a lot of cool stuff.
Fire.
I'm
There will be fire.
I am looking.
there's a
forward
lot
to
of fire. There'll be the life-size mousetrap is almost always there. It's kind of scary because they actually hoist a safe up and drop that. I wonder if the thermite guys are going to be back this year. They weren't there last year. But I think that thermite now falls into the mandate of tested, which means we need to learn how to make thermite, Norm.
Okay.
New policy.
That's not going to put you on like a watch list or something, is it?
I don't know. I read an interesting thing this morning about pressure bombs and CO2 and liquid nitrogen bombs.
Tell us more, Will.
Well, so
In very explicit detail.
the idea of a pressure, is she looking over there? Is she licking herself?
No.
Okay. She licking you?
Yes.
Okay, that's fine. I'm talking about the dog, just for the record. For audio listeners, talking about the dog. Chloe's wearing the cone of shame right now because she's having allergy freak out. So she has to, she would lick herself and pull her nails out and stuff. And do gross things. But the idea of a pressure bomb, which you should not do at home because they are really, really dangerous, and it is a good way to lose a hand and you will not have fun, is that you put something that is going to expand at a massive amount inside something that is going to prevent that expansion from happening. Like, for example, a Coke 2-liter bottle. So if you put a couple of ounces of dry ice into a Coke 2-liter bottle and then just let the dry ice sublime, evaporate, you go through the evaporation phase, then the increase in volume, the attempted increase in volume of the carbon dioxide that is the dry ice will increase the pressure inside the 2-liter bottle to such a point that it explodes pretty forcefully. If you do it with liquid nitrogen, because it's a much more, it wants to be much less dense, it explodes even bigger. And the reason this came up is because Wired, the science blog that does the basically looks at stuff and figures out the math and physics behind it, had looked at a video of a liquid nitrogen bomb that was sunk into a garbage can full of rubber ducks in water. And the video is pretty spectacular. It's worth watching. But it really highlights the reasons why you shouldn't do this at home, because it is really super dangerous. Like, I know a person who blew the pool lining out, the liner of an in-ground pool out with a dry ice bomb when I was in high school, and that was real bad. Also, it's a felony to make these kinds of bombs in California, I understand. So don't get any ideas, Chad.
I was getting really excited about that because I've blown up a bottle before with just like a tiny little firecracker. I would love to see that on a scale of 100 or 1,000. Yeah.
I still love if you have a mechanical pencil and you use that jab on top of a soda can, so you have a really small hole, and then just slam the can on the ground. You can shoot like 30, 40 feet of soda.
Really?
Yeah.
I know what I'm doing this afternoon. Ruining a mechanical pencil.
It does break the mechanical pencil.
And I'm going to drink some soda from about 30 feet away for a long time. Anything else? This is you guys are like, the attention span of youth in America and Canada today does not hold up to a 2-hour and 31-minute podcast.
In my defense, I have been awake for many hours.
You should be better at this by then.
I have looked at my phone dramatically less than any other podcast I've guested on in the past.
Well, that's true, because I really yelled at you the last time I caught you doing it.
Yeah, it's nothing this time. Well, because I want to be.
I appreciate that you're present.
I know.
Paying attention to the people in front of you.
I'm building the Noise Hero, which I have in this box right now.
What's the Noise Hero, Norm?
Noise Hero is a noisemaker, circuit bent noisemaker that I wrote about, and this kit came from Etsy all the way from the UK. So we'll be building that and testing it in the future. Just came today.
Very cool. Very cool.
You looking at me, Will?
Yes.
The only other subject I had much to say on actually was from that SNES article, and we talked so much about the technology behind it. I didn't get into it, but I read this really long study that this guy did about 4 years ago on the optimal length of copyright. And according to all the equations he put into it, which came out of the lowering costs of producing things thanks to the internet and
digital technology
and just, production technology in general, the welfare that is gained by society from these things that are produced and from copyright being shorter.
Yeah.
And plugged all these into a super complex equation and came out with 15 years.
That seems like the kind of bullshit that they do to generate BCS rankings, though, too.
I mean,
like, you can make those equations say whatever you want if it's a complex enough equation.
Sure.
It's like clout.
That's true. But there are parts in the essay, in the study, of breaking down the variables and saying, okay, this is what we assumed for this variable, and if we assumed the minimum versus the maximum, then this would be the number that came out. And basically the 99 percentile maximum length of copyright, the maximum optimal length.
Just to be clear, copyright now expires 70 years after the death of the author for books and different stuff for different types of content.
In
right?
the U.S., yeah.
Yeah, in the U.S.
And the 99th percentile was 47 years.
Wow.
They think is the longest it should be.
Thanks, Walt Disney.
So I thought that was interesting. It's depressing that it's something that's probably never going to change, or it's going to take a long time.
Torches and pitchforks
to lower that, yeah, because I think the Berne Convention is a thing that was established a long time ago that is basically a lot of developed countries buy into it for protecting works from various authors, and it states a minimum of 50 years after the life of the author for copyright.
Right.
So even if the United States government said, you know what, we should lower this copyright, it probably wouldn't go below that.
Sup copyright.
Yeah.
Hey, you know, Diablo 3 came out this week.
If you could actually log on.
I like that for the first time in 2 years, maybe 2.5 years, I had more than 15 people on my buddy list on Battle.net online. I think I had like 25 people online, all playing Diablo 3.
This week I learned Norm logs into StarCraft every night at about 10:30.
Yep.
Every night.
Yep.
Really?
And I got and 1/3 of those 25 people sent me messages saying, "Hey, you know you're playing StarCraft 2, right?" I couldn't tell.
Yeah. Yeah. So one of the things that happened with Diablo, and it's one of the things that people who follow the games industry have been really pissed off about for the last, probably 6 months or a year at this point, Wes? When did they announce that it was going to require always on internet? It was a long time ago.
I haven't really paid much attention to Diablo because honestly, I'm not into it.
It's not your thing?
Yeah.
It's not your joint?
I was a Warcraft 2 kid. I never got into Diablo.
Gross. I didn't really play Diablo. I didn't play Diablo 1 at all, but I played Diablo 2 when I moved to California, and I lived with a friend of mine while I was looking for a place, and Diablo 2 came out. So we literally sat in his living room and played Diablo 2 on coffee tables with computers, in 2000.
I hear it was kind of popular.
It's a big thing, it turns out. But it requires an always-on internet connection for a couple of reasons. Mainly because there was a lot of item. I mean, the Blizzard argument is that there was a lot of item duplication, which kind of fucked up the economy of the game. In Diablo 2, which they don't want to have in Diablo 3. So even if you're playing single player, you have to be connected to the network. There's obviously piracy concerns as well, and because you can buy stuff from other players using real money, or from Blizzard via other players using real money, then it's really important that item duplication and other weird shit like that just not happen. So the game came out on Tuesday?
15th, yep.
Yeah, Tuesday, and the servers couldn't handle the load in, Australia and New Zealand, and then in all the other regions, Europe, all the other regions that it came out one after the other, to the point that the game would go live and then go down like 3 hours later, pretty much universally. And it's still kind of up and down. Like even last night, it was still a little hinky. But it's a Diablo. The neat thing about Diablo, and actually StarCraft 2 for that matter, is that it looks like as I'm playing Diablo 3, even Gina came in and looked at me playing last night and was like, man, that looks exactly like I remember Diablo 2 looking. StarCraft, I had the same thing. And when you look at them side by side, it's far and away better. But they're really good. And that's a hard thing to do, I have to imagine.
Familiar but different.
The thing is, when you look at it, it looks like the way you remember it looking, not the way it actually looked, which I think is much harder than familiar.
Which isn't to say it looks like awesome. It just looks like the same. It's familiar.
It captures the essence.
Yes.
Almost like your brain has sort of changed the way that you remember Diablo based on sort of more current.
Well, exactly.
You remember everything better.
Yeah, that's exactly it.
Yeah. I mean, I remember Doom looking much better than Doom actually looks. I'm going to go ahead and tell you that right now.
I guess it was probably last week, I guess, when they did some...
I'm sorry, the other game does that. Halo does that well.
The Wolf 3D.
Halo does do a good job of that.
Wolfenstein, that was it. It was Wolfenstein. I think it was one of you guys that linked to this, where it was John...
the Carmack
playing
yeah.
through Wolf 3D,
Norman West. Yeah.
Yeah, that was actually a lot of fun to listen to. I mean, some of it goes right over my head because it's Carmack, but...
Well, it's like when Carmack tweets,
Oh
those
my God.
tweets are, it's like hyper compression, because one tweet
Indecipherable.
will send you down a Wikipedia path that takes like 30 or 40 minutes to decipher.
Yeah.
Yeah, the Halo does that really well, and it's something I didn't really appreciate with Halo until that Anniversary Edition came out, and you could toggle back and forth between the two, between the new Halo and the old Halo, and it's amazing how kind of shitty the old Halo looks now. But you look at something like Reach or Halo ODST, and you think, oh, it looks the same.
That kind of made me sad not to own an Xbox. I don't have a 360.
I'm
but
sorry.
I know it's
Halo
it's-
1 was really good at creating a distinct visual style that kind of stuck with the later games, even though they looked way better. That it was different enough from the typical like corridor shooter graphics that
It's also a testament to the gameplay of the original games, because, like, for example, a Wolfenstein 3D remake today would not, even if it like had the same visual styling and a familiarity. Wolf 3D back then was such a limited game from terms of its mechanics,
Weapons
that
and
you
mechanics,
couldn't
and, yeah.
do that today. While StarCraft and Diablo they're exactly the same core mechanics.
Yeah.
When we were talking earlier about games that do screenshots really, really badly, like, you know, Modern Warfare, where they're not really representative, the example actually that I thought of has always been really good of that is Halo. Like, I remember when they were releasing Halo 2 and Halo 3, and they were putting screens up on Bungie's website, and like straight from the engine, right? Like literally just like, hey, we were playing the game this afternoon. Here's some really cool screenshots we took. And I mean, I thought that was always sort of a really nice, you know, it's nice to be honest to the people who, you know, are playing your game.
except Bungie.net screenshots have some really nice like anti-aliasing and
Via
filtering of
post-processing.
lights.
Yeah.
They definitely look way cleaner than in game, but other than that, like, yeah, composition wise and everything, it is literally just from a game match that they'll take.
Cool. Okay, well, we'll be back next Thursday with another podcast. Until then, we'll see you guys next time. Bye. I'm killing video.